Chapter 3905. Actually, to be honest, the princess of the Divine Kingdom was not on the side of the Divine Kingdom. On the contrary, she cared more about the safety of the Sky Cloud realm. Although the Sky Cloud realm had won against the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom this time, it was just a competition between the younger generation. Moreover, she knew in her heart that the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom were far more than that. Not to mention the older generation. Facing the older generation, the Sky Cloud realm had no chance of winning. Thousands of years later, when the war broke out, the Sky Cloud realm would only suffer. So, she couldn't just watch this happen. She had to do something. The Feather Emperor glanced at Qin Feiyang, turned to look at the Blood Ancestor and the little rabbit, and sighed. It seems that we can only wait now. Madman is about to come out of seclusion. When Madman comes back, if sister-in-law still hasn't appeared, then we will personally go to the Great Qin to see if it is as we expected, the Blood Ancestor said. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and asked, should I also go to the core area of the land of the buried gods? Okay. The Feather Emperor nodded and said, as for the law given to him, let him fuse with it. After all, this is sister-in-law's idea. We have no right to interfere. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Kid, do you feel unbalanced in your heart? The Blood Ancestor asked with a smile. Why do you say that? If he is really the reincarnation of the human emperor, it is natural to give it to him. What can I feel unbalanced about? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. As long as he comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, he would be an invincible existence. As for the rest, there was no rush. Take your time. Okay. Anyway, towards a little fellow like you, this ancestor is quite at ease. The Blood Ancestor laughed and opened a space-time passage for Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was about to enter the passage, but suddenly he seemed to think of something and turned to the Blood Ancestor. Ancestor, now that things have come to this, you should tell me about Long Tianyu's situation. Long Tianyu. The Feather Emperor and the little rabbit were stunned. Long Tianyu is a little strange. When he's in danger, it will erupt with a terrifying power that is exactly the same as the ancestor's aura. The key point is that he didn't notice it at all, because when I unleashed this power I didn't know what to do. He will lose consciousness temporarily. Qin Feiyang explained. Is there such a thing? The Feather Emperor and the little rabbit were surprised, and they turned to look at the Blood Ancestor. Qin Feiyang looked at the Blood Ancestor and frowned. That gray castle? He actually helped him open the door to his potential? I'm very puzzled. What's your relationship with Long Tianyu? In the face of Qin Feiyang's interrogation, the Feather Emperor and the little rabbit were also curious. The Blood Ancestor pondered for a moment. Sighing, he said, this matter? To tell you the truth, I don't want you to know. You don't want us to know? The corners of the Feather Emperor's mouth twitched as he asked, could it be that it's a secret that can't be exposed? This. The Blood Ancestor hesitated. Say it. The little rabbit urged. Sigh. The Blood Ancestor sighed. Looking at the three of them, he said, I can tell you this matter. But must you promise? Help me keep it a secret? Especially not to tell Long Tianyu. Qin Feiyang? The Feather Emperor and the little rabbit exchanged glances. He actually wanted them to help him keep it a secret? It was definitely not simple. Actually, Long Tianyu. The Blood Ancestor's expression had a trace of disappointment as he sighed. Actually, he's my son. What? Not to mention Qin Feiyang. Even the Feather Emperor and the little rabbit couldn't help but jump. This old demon actually had a son? You're not joking with us, right? Qin Feiyang asked. Can this matter be joked about? The Blood Ancestor glared at Qin Feiyang angrily. That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded and said with an embarrassed smile, I'm not doubting you. I just feel that this is too unbelievable. You actually have a son in the ancient world? Is this very strange? Back then I was in the ancient world for so many years. The Blood Ancestor coldly snorted. Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. The Blood Ancestor did indeed say that he had stayed in the ancient world for a long time. Moreover, because of his powerful cultivation, he had lived quite comfortably in the ancient world. Unfortunately, he was targeted by the ice dragon later on. Not only was his physical body destroyed, but his remnant soul was also sealed. Back then, I was carefree in the ancient world and accidentally saved a woman. When the blood ancestor said this, his old face slightly reddened, as if he was a little embarrassed. Don't stop. Qin Feiyong sat next to the Feather Emperor, his face full of anticipation. Aren't you going to the land of the buried gods? The blood ancestor said angrily. No rush, no rush. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. The blood ancestor glared at him and sighed. Originally, I just casually saved her. But I didn't expect that after spending some time together, she would have a good impression of me. Actually, it's my fault. Your fault? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Yes. At that time, I should have directly driven her away. Otherwise, what happened later wouldn't have happened. The blood ancestor sighed. You kept her by your side at that time? The Feather Emperor asked. Yes. At that time I saved her, and she kept following me. First I was a little impatient. However, I heard that her parents died early, and she didn't have any relatives at home. It was quite pitiful for her to wander alone. Out of sympathy I took her in. After that she took care of my food and my daily life. It could be said that she was meticulous. In the past I had never felt such warmth, so slowly I started to have an idea. I wanted a home. After that cough, there's no need to say this, right? You all understand. The blood ancestor smiled awkwardly. Understood. Qin Feiyong and the other two nodded repeatedly. Wasn't it just a romantic past? They were all experienced people and understood. However, not long after, the ice dragon targeted me. I knew that if she continued to follow me, she would definitely be implicated, so I heartlessly chased her away. There was no other way. If I wasn't heartless, she wouldn't have left. In the end, she left sadly. Not long after, I was seriously injured by the ice dragon. Fortunately, the ice dragon didn't kill me, allowing me to retain a trace of my remnant soul. After becoming a remnant soul, I immediately went to look for her. After half a year of searching, I finally found her in a barren mountain. At that time, she was living in a cave with a big belly. Only then did I know that she was pregnant with my child. At that time, I immediately regretted it. Why did I provoke the dragons and the ice dragon? I, who was sealed, couldn't give the mother and child happiness at all. However, even though she knew that I was just a remnant soul, she didn't despise me. Later, the child was born. This child was Long Tianyu. The blood ancestor sighed. That's not right. When I found Long Tianyu, he was only 13 years old. You were sealed by the ice dragon many years ago. The timing doesn't match. Qin Feiyong frowned. That's because something happened in between. In terms of age, Long Tianyu was even older than you. The blood ancestor shook his head. What do you mean? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. After Long Tianyu was born, we lived in seclusion in that barren mountain. Although I was just a remnant soul, I lived very happily. However, when Long Tianyu was 5 years old, the dragons of the ancient realm found my whereabouts and came to kill me. The ice dragon let me go, but the dragons didn't want to. Do you know how much despair I felt when I faced the dragons? If I hadn't been sealed by the ice dragon, if I hadn't been a remnant soul, would I have been afraid of them? But there was no other way, because there were no ifs. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't protect the mother and child. However, just as I was in despair, the ice dragon appeared again and stopped the dragons, giving me a way out. But the mother and child died. At that time, I even had the thought of dying. However, the ice dragon discovered that my son wasn't dead. There was still a trace of his soul. At that time, I was overjoyed and immediately knelt down and begged the ice dragon to save him. Because I couldn't save him in my state at that time, I could only beg it. Perhaps the ice dragon couldn't bear it, or perhaps because it knew what I had done for the Sky Cloud realm, so it nodded and agreed to help me. It didn't directly save my son. Instead, it used a great ability to seal my son in ice, forever freezing him at the age of 5. In other words, no matter how many years passed, as long as he was sealed in ice, he would always maintain his appearance when he was 5 years old. The blood ancestor explained. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyong suddenly understood. Later, the ice dragon let me go. The dragons also gave up on chasing me. However, I was in the state of a remnant soul at that time, and I was sealed, so I couldn't save my son. As for the dragons, although they didn't chase me, they threatened to kill me if I dared to ask for help. They were probably afraid that my son would grow up and take revenge on them. Later, one year, I accidentally entered the land of the far west and encountered the Grey Castle. The blood ancestor looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "At that time, you had already entered the ancient world and made a name for yourself in the northern region. In fact, I planned to look for you because I knew that you were the descendant of the human emperor, after learning about the purple gold dragon blood. However, you weren't very strong at that time, so I didn't want to implicate you. At that time, the ancestor was already in the ancient world. Why didn't you look for him?" Qin Feiyang asked. Not long after he entered the ancient world, he was targeted by the dragons. He couldn't even protect himself, so how could I dare to look for him? The blood ancestor shook his head with a bitter smile and then said, "When I encountered the Grey Castle, he learned about what had happened to me. When he heard that it was the ice dragon that injured me and my son, he agreed to help me without hesitation. He's indeed a ruthless person who specializes in opposing the ice dragon." The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. He had heard from Snowflake that Snowflake, Bloodblade, Firepearl, and the Grey Castle had a blood feud with the ice dragon and small beast. With the help of the Grey Castle, my son, who had been sleeping for countless years, finally woke up. However, I knew that I couldn't protect him in my state at that time. So, after discussing with the Grey Castle, I came up with a plan. The blood ancestor smiled. "What plan?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Let him go to your side." The blood ancestor said. "Come to my side?" Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. He asked in surprise, "Could it be that everything that happened back then was deliberately arranged by you?" "That's right." The blood ancestor nodded. Chapter 3906. Back then you showed your talent in the northern region, and they're fighting to the death with the dragon clan. As long as this child follows you, not only can he hide his identity, but he can also follow you to the divine land and take revenge on the dragons. The blood ancestor smiled. "You have so much confidence in me?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. As a descendant of the human emperor, how can you be an ordinary person? Taking a step back, even if something bad happened to you with your personality, you would definitely arrange a way out for this child. The blood ancestor smiled. Okay. He didn't expect to be targeted by the blood ancestor from the beginning. However, there was one thing he couldn't figure out. I remember that I read Long Tianyu's memory back then. His parents died early and he was raised by his grandfather. Even if you and the Grey Castle are powerful, you can't change his memory, right? Qin Feiyang looked at the blood ancestor suspiciously. Of course I can't change his memory, and I don't need to. That's because he did grow up in that village. Furthermore, after he woke up, the people he came into contact with were his adoptive parents, as well as that grandfather of his. This family also treated him as their own. They never told him that he wasn't their biological son, and they even changed his name to Long Tianyu. As for the memory before he was frozen, he was so young at that time and had been frozen for so many years. He has already forgotten it. The blood ancestor smiled faintly. Then the people in his village should know that he's not their biological son, right? Qin Feiyang said. Of course, I told them not to talk nonsense. Although it was deliberately arranged, we still had to make the show real. Although his adoptive parents died early, they were really good to him. So we can't let him mistakenly think that he's an abandoned orphan, which will be detrimental to his growth. The blood ancestor said. Did the death of his adoptive parents have anything to do with you? Qin Feiyang was surprised. What do you mean? Do you think I killed them and deliberately created a pitiful background for this child to win everyone's sympathy? The blood ancestor immediately glared at Qin Feiyang angrily. No. Don't be so agitated. I'm just asking. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. Actually, he really did think so because with this old devil's personality, what couldn't he do? But obviously, this time, he had wronged the blood ancestor. I'll tell you, although this ancestor is vicious and merciless, I still have a conscience. They took such good care of Tianyu. How could this ancestor do anything to them? Don't think that this ancestor? What a cold-blooded demon. This ancestor is also very loyal. The blood ancestor glared at him. I was wrong. Was I wrong? I'm sorry. Please calm down. Qin Feiyang smiled obsequiously. He poured a cup of tea and handed it to the blood ancestor. The blood ancestor took the teacup? She glared at Qin Feiyang. He took a sip of tea and sighed. His adoptive parents and his grandfather's death? It was a tragedy. Everyone in the family was kind. Unfortunately, he didn't live long. When I found out, it's too late to save them. Qin Feiyang patted the blood ancestor's shoulder. He asked, that kid shouldn't be surnamed Long originally, right? Do you still need to ask? Of course he should have taken my surname. The blood ancestor rolled his eyes. Take your surname? Qin Feiyang was stunned. What do you mean by that? He's my son. If he doesn't take my surname, who else would he take? The blood ancestor was angry again. Cough cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and hurriedly said, you misunderstood me. What I want to say is after so long, I still don't know your surname and name. That's right. After so many years you still don't know my name. You're a little incompetent as a junior. The blood ancestor glanced sideways at Qin Feiyang, his expression full of displeasure. Ha! Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. The Feather Emperor looked at the blood ancestor in amusement and said, this old devil is called Nangong Jian. Nangong Jian? Qin Feiyang was stunned. The Feather Emperor was overjoyed. Little Rabbit also laughed. The blood ancestor's face darkened. It's a sword, not a jian. This little rascal must be doing it on purpose. Sword? Jian. Which sword? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. What kind of sword do you think it is? The blood ancestor couldn't help but roar. I thought it was bitch in bitch. Qin Feiyang chuckled and ran away after saying that. The blood ancestor was so angry that he gritted his teeth. The Feather Emperor shook his head and laughed. Why does Long Tianyu have your aura in his body? The blood ancestor glared fiercely at Qin Feiyang and sighed. That's the power of my bloodline. Because I've killed too many people in this life, my murderous aura has merged with my bloodline power. Qin Feiyang said, in other words, he inherited your bloodline power, so when he encounters danger, this potential power will be stimulated? Yes. The blood ancestor nodded. Then will this power affect his cultivation in any way? Qin Feiyang frowned. No. This isn't a special bloodline power. It's just some murderous aura. Although he can't control this power when his cultivation is weak, with his current cultivation, he won't be affected at all. The blood ancestor shook his head. That's good. Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief and asked with a smile, then when are you going to tell Long Tianyu? No, I should call him Nangong Tianyu now. When are you going to tell him these things? The blood ancestor pondered for a while and sighed. I actually wanted to tell him a long time ago, but I didn't have the courage. I'm afraid that he'll hate me. After all, I killed his mother. His mother's death was caused by the dragons. The dragons have been exterminated. So it's time to end this grudge. I watched this child grow up. He's obedient and sensible. He should be able to understand your difficulties back then and won't resist an old father like you. Qin Feiyang said. Really? The blood ancestor looked at Qin Feiyang excitedly. Qin Feiyang was stunned and smiled. I'm not sure. It's just an analysis. That's equivalent to not saying anything. The blood ancestor rolled his eyes. It's not easy to have a child at your old age. The Feather Emperor sighed deeply and looked at the blood ancestor. Even if this child hates you, you have to confess to him as soon as possible. Because only if you speak first can we help you enlighten him. The blood ancestor looked at the Feather Emperor, then at Qin Feiyang and the little rabbit. Seeing their encouraging gazes, he nodded and said, Okay, give me some time to prepare. I'll confess to him. Then you should prepare well. I'll go to the land of buried gods first. Call me when you're ready. Qin Feiyang smiled and stepped into the space-time passage. The core area. The seal was gone and only ruins were left. At this moment, Yun Xiang stood in the central area and looked up at the gate of the Divine Kingdom, clenching his hands together. Swish! Qin Feiyang landed in the sky and looked down. Soon he saw Yun Xiang and his eyes were filled with complicated emotions. If this person was really the reincarnation of the human emperor, how should he get along with him in the future? They were of the same generation. How could he suddenly become an ancestor? The difference in seniority was really like heaven and earth. After a long time, Qin Feiyong looked up at the gate of the divine kingdom and landed beside Yun Xiang. You're here too. Yun Xiang retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyong with a forced smile. It was uglier than crying. I'm here to accompany you. Qin Feiyong smiled. Yun Xiang shook his head and laughed. Don't worry, I'm not as weak as you think. By the way, what did you talk about with Lord Feather Emperor on Sky Cloud Island? Nothing. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. Why did you talk for so long? Yun Xiang looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyong was silent for a while and smiled. You definitely won't believe me. What? Yun Xiang was suspicious. Qin Feiyong said, the blood ancestor actually has a son. Yun Xiang's expression froze as he asked in surprise, who is it? Qin Feiyong said, you've been cultivating in the Black Tortoise world for so long, so you should know him. It's that little guy Nangong Tianyu. Nangong Tianyu? Yun Xiang was stunned. Was there such a person in the Black Tortoise world? He used to be called Long Tianyu. Qin Feiyong smiled. It's him. Yun Xiang nodded and said in surprise, you mean this little guy is the blood ancestor's son? Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. Yun Xiang was stunned for a while and shook his head. Don't joke with me. How is that possible? Do I look like I'm joking with you? Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly. This matter was indeed too unexpected. Not to mention Yun Xiang, anyone who heard this news would think it was a joke. Yun Xiang sized up Qin Feiyong for a moment. Seeing that Qin Feiyong didn't seem to be joking, he was left speechless. How incredible! That old demon, the blood ancestor, actually has a son? Ahem. Don't let the blood ancestor hear this. Otherwise you'll be finished. Qin Feiyong hurriedly warned. Although the blood ancestor was an old devil, couldn't an old devil have a son? Therefore, this couldn't be said carelessly. I know. Yun Xiang nodded and looked up at the gate of the divine kingdom again. Brother Qin, I've been thinking about it. We can't keep being beaten like this. I think we should directly attack the divine kingdom and turn the divine kingdom into a training ground for the Sky Cloud realm. Qin Feiyong was shocked when he heard this. This guy actually had such a crazy idea? However, Yun Xiang's words weren't unreasonable. The Sky Cloud realm couldn't always be in a passive situation. They had to seize the initiative. However, the current strength of the Sky Cloud realm simply didn't allow it. Don't worry. The future is long. As long as we work hard, we will definitely be able to do it in the future. The current strength didn't allow it, but it didn't mean that it wouldn't be possible in the future. When he comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, he would really go to the divine kingdom. Yes. Yun Xiang nodded. After hesitating for a while, he turned to look at Qin Feiyong and asked, should I fuse with the law inheritance that Master gave me? Of course. What's there to hesitate about? Qin Feiyong smiled. But I keep feeling that there's something wrong with these 3 law inheritances. Yun Xiang took out the 3 law inheritances and frowned. Chapter 3907. Qin Feiyong's heart trembled. This person's sixth sense was quite strong. However, since the princess of the divine kingdom had already made up her mind to give these 3 laws to Yun Xiang, she would definitely not take them back. This is what your master gave you. What's wrong with it? You don't think that she will harm you, right? Qin Feiyong smiled. That's not what I meant. Yun Xiang quickly shook his head. Don't worry. I have asked Feather Emperor and the others. These 3 inheritances were indeed brought by the old ancestor from the divine kingdom. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. Really? Yun Xiang asked. Qin Feiyong nodded. Sometimes, it's not impossible to say something against your heart. Then do you know where Master is now? Yun Xiang asked. I have a guess. But it hasn't been confirmed yet. In short, you don't have to worry too much. After all, with the old ancestor's strength, there aren't many in the Sky Cloud realm who can hurt her. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. That's true. Yun Xiang nodded and finally relaxed a lot. Let's go. Let's go to the Black Tortoise realm to fuse. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he took Yun Xiang and appeared in the sky above the Devil's Land. What about outside? Yun Xiang frowned. Qin Feiyong waved his hand again, and an image appeared in the void in front of them. The situation outside the gate of the Divine Kingdom was clearly displayed in the image. Yun Xiang looked at the image and breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he could pay attention to the situation outside at any time, it would be fine. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. I will keep an eye here. You go to the castle and find a cultivation room to focus on fusing the laws. Then when Master comes you must inform me. Yun Xiang reminded. Qin Feiyong nodded. Yun Xiang withdrew his gaze, turned around, and rushed towards the castle like a bolt of lightning. Whether or not he is the reincarnation of the human emperor, this is a blessing that makes people envious. Qin Feiyong muttered to himself as he looked at Yun Xiang's back. 3 ultimate profundity inheritances. Even in the Heavenly Bell Divine Treasure, it was very difficult to encounter such a fortune. However, although he had helped Yun Xiang, he would lose the princess of the Divine Kingdom. Furthermore, even his cultivation would fall to the small success sovereign realm. Sigh. The price was too high. Indeed, he did not expect that the ultimate profound could be forcefully extracted. If he had known earlier, he might have used some tricks to get some benefits from the Dragon King trio. This was because Dragon King and the other 2 had mastered 2 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. But then again, would Dragon King and the other 2 give him the ultimate profound? Obviously that was impossible. After all, based on their hatred for him, they would rather die than help him. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Don't think so much, the ultimate profound of the life and death laws was the most important. Then, he called Pei Dason over. After helping to monitor the situation outside, he sat cross-legged in the void and continued to comprehend the ultimate profound of the life and death laws. The Divine King of Chaos had given him some insights? He had already comprehended a lot. He could clearly feel that the door to the ultimate profound was slowly opening for him. However little, he still couldn't figure it out. This insight. It contained a sentence. Put death on the ground and fight to live. Put death on the ground and fight to live. Generally speaking, it referred to death first and then life. To find hope in despair. This was actually the principle of the life and death laws. Because the end of death was reincarnation, and reincarnation represented new life. The end of life? It was the end. The end? It was equivalent to death. Life and death were intertwined, and reincarnation was endless. However, Qin Feiyong had a feeling that this was definitely not what the Divine King of Chaos wanted to express. Because even if he comprehended the life and death laws, it was impossible for him to really die. The price was too high. Moreover, there were so many people who reincarnated. Lunatic was one of them. If he died once, could he really comprehend the ultimate profound of the life and death laws? Lunatic should have figured it out long ago. Therefore his judgment, the sentence, put death on the ground and fight to live? It must contain other mysteries. Time flew. Black Tortoise World? 100,000 years had passed. But only 20 days had passed outside. It was half a month. But half a month had passed, and the princess of the Divine Kingdom had not appeared in the land of the buried gods. Long Chun also did not return to the dragon's nest. There was no movement from the Divine Kingdom either. Everyone thought that the Divine Kingdom would definitely make a comeback after suffering such a huge loss. But unexpectedly, it had been so long and there was still no movement. Of course, after the battle in the land of the buried gods, everyone was no longer so afraid of the younger generation of the Divine Kingdom. However, the next morning, bang! Powerful auras emerged from the gate of the Divine Kingdom. Pei Dason, who was monitoring the gate of the Divine Kingdom, suddenly trembled slightly and was about to wake Qin Feiyong up. But he swallowed the words back when he was about to say it. It was better to observe the situation first. If it was just some ordinary heavenly talents, there was no need to alarm Qin Feiyong. In less than 3 breaths, figures filed out from the gate of the Divine Kingdom, no less than 1,000 people. This was an extremely terrifying number. The most important thing was, these people were very young. Each of them showed an extraordinary temperament, and the aura they exuded was also extremely terrifying. Among them, 3 young people were particularly eye-catching. 2 men and 1 woman. The 2 young men were tall and straight, with sword-like eyebrows, and their white clothes were spotless. The other woman, about 20 years old, was also wearing a snow-white long dress. Her black hair fluttered in the wind like a flower fairy. Just by the aura they exuded, one could tell that they were not ordinary people. Moreover, the strangest thing was, in the middle of these people's eyebrows, there was a crescent-shaped mark, glowing with a wisp of sacred light. A group of people appeared, standing in the sky above the core area, scanning all directions. This is the Sky Cloud realm? It's really a small place. Such a place can actually give birth to a monster like Ryuko. It's really strange. The group of people discussed animatedly, their faces full of disdain. Ryuko? He's just relying on his 3,000 incarnations to intimidate others. The leading woman in a white dress smiled contemptuously. Sister Shuang, aren't you afraid of falling into Ryuko's ears? The two young men in white next to her looked at the woman in a white dress and laughed. They didn't seem to take Ryuko seriously either. So what if it falls into his ears? The woman in a white dress didn't care at all. You can't say that. After all, he is the grandson of the monarch. We still have to give him face. Let's not talk about this first. Let's see how outstanding the heavenly talents of the Sky Cloud realm are. Let's go. The two young men in white waved their hands, and more than 1,000 people behind them immediately turned into streams of light and swept in all directions like lightning. It doesn't seem to be simple. Pei Dason muttered. Of course it's not simple. Qin Feiyong's voice sounded behind him. Huh. Pei Dason hurriedly turned his head and found that Qin Feiyong had already woken up from his seclusion, and was looking at the two men and one woman in the image. Young master, I'm sorry Pei Dason hurriedly walked in front of Qin Feiyong, his face full of anxiety. Why are you panicking? Am I that scary? Qin Feiyong was speechless. Pei Dason smiled embarrassedly. He thought that Qin Feiyong would blame him for not informing him in the first place. Qin Feiyong looked at the three people in the image, and a trace of seriousness gradually appeared in his eyes. These three people give me a very dangerous feeling. Very dangerous. Pei Dason was surprised. How was that possible? Even the young master could feel danger? For the talents of the divine kingdom, even if it's just the most ordinary one, we can't underestimate them. But these people are indeed a little strange. What does the mark between their eyebrows represent? Qin Feiyong muttered. Could it be just a birthmark? Pei Dason was suspicious. Birthmark. Qin Feiyong looked at Pei Dason speechlessly and said, have you seen more than 1,000 people with the same birthmark in the same place? No. Pei Dason laughed dryly. Isn't that right? Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him. This time, the two men and one woman outside also flew away, and it seemed that they were heading to the eastern continent. Young master, do you want to go out and have a look? Pei Dason asked worriedly. No need. We have to do everything. Won't we be exhausted? Qin Feiyong shook his head and continued to close his eyes to comprehend the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. He's really calm. Pei Dason laughed bitterly. Outside, as large amounts of young people from the divine kingdom surged into the four continents, the four continents were instantly seething with excitement. Who are you? Why have you come to my city in such an ostentatious manner? Ocean of Clouds City. For young people from the divine kingdom flashed fearlessly into the sky above the city, and it immediately alarmed the city governor's estate. For example, the city governor of Ocean of Clouds City and Ocean of Wind City weren't Shuo Tiansheng and the others anymore. They were members of the Devil Hall. The city governor immediately charged out with a group of guards when he sensed the auras of the four young people from the divine kingdom, and he shouted at them. Shut up. One of the young people from the divine kingdom grunted coldly with impatience, and then an enormous explosion resounded as a blood-red crescent rose into the sky. It was the ultimate meaning of the law of death. The city governor and the others were shocked. After all, the ultimate meaning of the strongest laws was an extremely formidable ability on the four continents. Because only the Devil Hall, Independent Cultivator Alliance, Sky Hall, and Divine Hall possess such ability on the four continents. For example, the strongest ability in a city like Ocean of Clouds City was the fifth profundity. For example, while the city governor was at the peak of the sovereign realm, he didn't even possess a single supreme profundity. Of course, it wasn't that he was weak. Someone like him would definitely be considered a top-rate existence in Ocean of Cloud City. Yet now, Ocean of Cloud City was about to face the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom. Even though the 4 young people from the Divine Kingdom couldn't compare to the blue-haired young man and the other top geniuses, their strength was sufficient to sweep through the world unless the older generation acted against them. Bang! As the crescent descended, the city governor's group was blasted flying while blood sprayed from their bodies. Right at this moment, a guard commander ran over hastily and spoke in a low voice, "City Governor, we have news. They came from the land of buried gods." What? They came from the land of buried gods. Then aren't they from the Divine Kingdom? The city governor's expression changed drastically. Yes, we are from the Divine Kingdom. The 4 young men laughed proudly. Chapter 3908. The Prodigies of the Divine Kingdom. The city lord's eyes trembled. What are you afraid of? Our sky cloud realm has prodigies like Long Chan and Qin Feiyang. And our eastern continent is the place where Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and Golden Wing Wolf King rose. On the street below, a teenage boy yelled. When the city lord heard this, he felt humiliated. He wasn't even afraid of a teenager. As the city lord, he was actually scared to this extent. It was really embarrassing. Qin Feiyang? Madman Mo? Golden Wing Wolf King? The 4 Divine Kingdom youths looked at each other. Who was this person? Wasn't it said that the only prodigies of the Sky Cloud realm were Long Chan, Long Qin, Yunxiang, and Li Feng? That's right. Qin Feiyang and the others rose step by step in our eastern continent and became the prodigies of the Sky Cloud realm today. With them here, we don't have to be afraid at all. The others also roared. Who are these Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and Golden Wing Wolf King? Are they strong? They are. One of the Divine Kingdom youths frowned. Of course they are strong. They are the prodigies of our Sky Cloud realm. They have left countless legends in the eastern continent. Even the older generation doesn't dare to compete with them. If you really have the ability, go find them. Don't be a tyrant here. The city lord also mustered up his courage and stared at the 4 with a sneer. So powerful? How are they compared to Long Chan and the others? The 4 were curious. I don't know. The city lord shook his head. You don't know? The 4 were stunned. The city lord indeed didn't know because Qin Feiyang and the others didn't show their strength in public after returning from the Skybell Divine Treasury. The only 2 times, Qin Feiyang played the role of Qin Xiaotan. Are you playing with us? If they are really powerful, then let them come here. We will wait for them. The 4 of them sneered, their expressions full of contempt. Their whereabouts are uncertain. Go and find them if you have the ability. When you find them, you will know how insignificant you are. The city lord retorted. You're courting death. One of the young men took a step forward and landed in front of the city lord in an instant. He slammed his palm towards the city lord's chest. Accompanied by a blood-curdling scream, the city lord's body shattered on the spot, and blood splattered everywhere. What Qin Feiyang? What Madman Mo? What Golden-Winged Wolf King? In front of the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom, they are nothing but ants. I'm the one who said that. If any of you are not convinced, then come at me. You can come at me together. That young man from the Divine Kingdom was extremely arrogant, and he glanced at the entire city. Too arrogant. There's simply no log. Beat him up. The young man's words immediately enraged the crowd. Within the city, everyone who had attained the ruler realm charged out, activated their laws, and charged towards the young man from the Divine Kingdom. There are so many of you. Yet you don't even have a single supreme profundity. You really are no different from ants. The young man from the Divine Kingdom laughed with disdain, and then he instantly activated 6 supreme profundities. Amongst them were 2 supreme profundities and 4 ordinary supreme profundities. 6 supreme profundities. Such strength was even stronger than the other experts of the Devil Palaces. In just a few breaths of time, all those who charged forward were heavily injured, and they were smashed into the city in a sorry state. Accompanied by a series of rumbling sounds, the city was also in a mess. That's it. Haha. How laughable. Looks like besides Yunxiang, Li Feng, Long Chan and Long Qin, There are no other capable young people in the skycloud dimension. The four of them roared with laughter, and then they turned around and left. Bastard! It's too early for all of you to be arrogant. The city lord's soul roared furiously. You still dare to act arrogantly? One of the young men from the divine kingdom raised his brows, and then a strand of the energy of the laws surged forward and obliterated the city lord's soul on the spot. The other three young men had cold and indifferent expressions on their faces as well, and it was like they were crushing an ant. City lord! All of you bastards will die a horrible death. All of them howled with sorrow. They didn't feel any panic, only hatred remained. Looks like I have to slaughter the city to make all of you behave. The gazes of the four young men turned cold as they activated their various supreme profundities, and they actually grasped 6 supreme profundities. 6 supreme profundities were existences on the same level as the patriarchs of the 3 races. The gap between Ocean of Cloud City and the 3 races wasn't small at all. Even if Elder Hua, Chu Yun, the Devil Palace's master, and the Grand Elder were here, they wouldn't be able to fight the 4 of them without using sovereign armaments. Ocean of Cloud City was about to be annihilated, but a formidable aura suddenly surged over from afar. The 4 young men from the Divine Kingdom were stunned, and then they turned around to look at the sky above the mountains outside the city. You actually dared to cause trouble in my territory? Are all of you tired of living? Cruel laughter resounded. That voice. The spirits of the residents of the city were refreshed, and they raised their heads to look over. They saw a black-clothed young man walking step by step through the air towards them. Madman Mo. It really is him. Brother Mo, they're from the Divine Kingdom. They didn't just kill the city lord. They even intend to slaughter the entire city. Quickly kill them. The crowd instantly roared with excitement. He's Madman Mo. The 4 young men from the Divine Kingdom raised their brows. He's from the Divine Kingdom? I was wondering who would dare to act so arrogantly in Ocean of Cloud City. So it's trash from the Divine Kingdom. Madman chuckled as he utilized the ghost steps, and it only took a few blinks of the eye for him to arrive before them. Trash? They exchanged glances, and then they started laughing from extreme rage. They stared at Madman and said, I heard from them that you're very strong. I'm not really strong, but I can crush all of you. Madman bared his teeth. How arrogant. But there's a price to pay for being arrogant. Killing intent flashed in their eyes, and all sorts of profound meanings blasted towards Madman. But Madman didn't even dodge. He just stood there without moving, and all sorts of profound meanings instantly drowned him. You're just a so-so. You're so scared that you don't even dare to fight back. The 4 of them laughed in disdain. The eyelids of the people in the city couldn't help but twitch. He wouldn't be killed just like that, right? Is that so? I didn't fight back because you don't even have the qualifications to make me fight back. Madman's proud and arrogant voice resounded. The 4 of them were surprised. He actually didn't die after being blasted by their profound meanings? As expected of Madman Mo. Haha. He doesn't even have the qualifications to fight back. He's really domineering. The people in the city were stunned for a moment, and then they all started laughing. Swoosh! In the next moment, Madman took a step forward and entered everyone's line of sight once more. His body was actually intact. How is this possible? The 4 young men from the Divine Kingdom were stunned. Immediately after, they discovered that Madman's body was now filled with strands of lightning energy. It was this power of thunder that helped the Madman block the attacks of the various profound meanings. This is the prodigy of the Divine Kingdom? You've really disappointed me. Madman sized up the 4 of them and shook his head. The lightning energy surged out, and a lightning pool suddenly appeared in the sky. All sorts of divine lightning intertwined, forming rainbow-colored divine lightning that exuded a heavenly might that could destroy the world. This is the law of lightning's ultimate profound meaning. The 4 of them changed their expressions and turned to run. Die for me. Madman laughed. With a wave of his hand, rainbow-colored divine lightning poured down like a waterfall, instantly drowning the 4 of them. With a shrill scream, the 4 of them were destroyed on the spot. Amazing! This is the law of lightning's ultimate profound meaning. As expected of a prodigy from our eastern continent, everyone looked at this scene with excitement. Madman waved his hand, and the lightning dissipated. He lowered his head to look at the people in the city, and his eyes seemed to have a trace of vicissitudes. But soon, he returned to his cynical look and laughed. You guys are too useless. Just 4 pieces of trash beat you up like this. Just 4 pieces of trash? Everyone smiled bitterly. In your eyes they are trash, but in our eyes they are unattainable gods. We know you are strong. But can you not be so discouraging? Madman asked. How many people came from the Divine Kingdom this time? A lot. Not only our Eastern continent, but according to the news from the Divine Palace, Sky Palace, and Rogue Cultivator Alliance, there are also many people from the Divine Kingdom on their side. I estimate that there are at least 800 if not 1,000 people coming this time. The guard commander stepped forward and said in a deep voice. Because the time was too short, they didn't have a specific number. So many? Madman was stunned. Yes. It's much more than before. The guard commander nodded and said, however, the people who came this time aren't as good as those from before. A group of people from the Divine Kingdom has already come? Madman was stunned. You don't know about this? The guard commander was suspicious. I don't know. I have been in the Nether King's hell and have only just returned. Madman shook his head. Yes. I heard that you seem to have entered the evil moon back then. The guard commander patted his head and said, half a month ago, 10 geniuses from the Divine Kingdom came, and each of them had extraordinary strength. The guard commander briefly explained the situation of that battle. No way. Someone from the Divine Kingdom actually has 3,000 incarnations? Madman was dumbfounded. We saw it with our own eyes. In the end, it was Long Chun who appeared and killed him. The guard commander said in a deep voice. Long Chun? Madman frowned. The guard commander said, Long Chun's God's domain can restrain 3,000 incarnations. His strength is even more terrifying than Long Qin, Li Feng, and Yun Xiang. Long Qin, Long Chun, the Divine Kingdom's 10 geniuses. Interesting. Madman chuckled. The guard commander was rather speechless when he heard this. After all, every single one of those 10 geniuses was an extremely terrifying enemy, and they could even slaughter an entire continent with ease. But Madman seemed completely indifferent. At this moment, a middle-aged man in the city below took out a transmission stone. A figure appeared. This figure was a young man in his 20s, and he wore the uniform of a disciple of the Demon Palace. Obviously, he was a disciple of the Demon Palace. Father, you must be careful in the city. The geniuses of the Divine Kingdom have arrived again. The young man looked at the middle-aged man and reminded him. The middle-aged man smiled. The Divine Kingdom's forces have appeared in the city. What? How's the city now? The young man was surprised. It's fine now. They intended to slaughter the city, but at the critical moment, Madman Mo attacked and killed them. The middle-aged man smiled. Madman Mo. The young man was shocked and roared. Where is Madman Mo now? What? The middle-aged man was puzzled. Dozens of Divine Kingdom's forces have arrived at the Demon Palace. The situation is dangerous now. The young man said in a low voice. What? The middle-aged man's expression changed, and he hurriedly raised his head to look at Madman in the sky and roared, Brother Mo, the Demon Palace is in trouble. Quickly go and help. Madman raised his brows. Did they think that the Eastern continent had no one? Old Meng. Chapter 3909. The guard commander was shocked as well, and he said anxiously, Brother Mo, quickly go and support them. Just 4 people from Ocean of Cloud City had almost been massacred, let alone dozens of people. The Demon Hall was definitely in a very bad situation. Don't worry, Demon Hall. Deal with the aftermath well. Madman waved his hand, and a spatial passageway appeared the Demon Hall. At this moment, the mountain before the entrance had been practically razed to the ground. Around 60 people stood in the air, and their clothes and hair fluttered in the wind. Their auras were terrifying, and their faces were filled with disdain. Elder Hua Chu Yun, the Demon Hall's Hall Master, and the 10 elders were in the lead. There were countless disciples behind them, and their faces were filled with rage. Moreover, there were a few dozen young men and women by Elder Hua's side. They were all core disciples of the Demon Hall, and they were the best amongst the core disciples. They were known as the geniuses of the Eastern continent, but all of them were missing limbs and covered in blood. They were in an extremely sorry state. There were even over a dozen corpses on the ground, and they had died rather miserably. These are the genius disciples of your demon hall? They can't even withstand a single attack from us. Are they worthy of being geniuses? I think they're even worse than idiots. One of the young men from the divine kingdom glanced at the group of young men and women, and then he chuckled as he looked at Elder Hua and the others. Hearing this, everyone in the Devil Palace was instantly enraged. Actually, you older generation people can step in as well. Even though Qin Shaotian and the Master of the Divine Kingdom made an agreement, you don't have to abide by it, and we don't mind. However, even if you older generation people step in, you probably won't be able to turn the situation around. After all, even the weakest on our side is stronger than you older generation people. Let's just call you old trash from now on. Haha, that name? It's very suitable for you. A group of people laughed unscrupulously. Chu Yun clenched her fists tightly. Clang! Suddenly, she waved her hand and a crimson sword appeared. The ruler's aura instantly enveloped the surroundings. Little Yun. No. Elder Hua's expression changed, and he hurriedly looked at Chu Yun and shouted. The Demon Hall's hall master hurriedly stopped him. At the same time, the young men from the Divine Kingdom were stunned, and then they started laughing. Ruler's weapon. How awe-inspiring. However, do you dare activate it? So long as you dare to activate the sovereign divine weapon? Does that mean breaking the agreement between Qin Shaotian and the Master of the Divine Kingdom? When the army of the Divine Kingdom arrives, what kind of consequences will the Sky Cloud realm face? Can you imagine? I advise you to obediently put it away. This is the consequence? It's not something you can bear. All kinds of mocking words were incessant. This enraged everyone in the Demon Royal Halls to the extreme. Then do you know what consequences you will have to bear? But suddenly, a bone-chilling voice rang out. Little lunatic. Elder Hua and the others were stunned. He was immediately overjoyed. The dozens of people from the Divine Kingdom couldn't help but raise their eyebrows. Who had the guts to provoke them? Could it be Long Chun? Yun Xiang? Li Feng? Above the Demon Palace, a space-time tunnel appeared. Lunatic took a step forward, standing high up in the sky. He scanned the demonic palace. I'm back. Elder Hua stepped forward. Yes. Madman nodded. His gaze turned cold as he looked at the injured disciples. Then, he noticed the dead disciples of the Demon Royal Halls. Killing intent surged in his eyes. He raised his head and looked at the dozens of people from the Divine Kingdom. Who gave you the courage to come to the Demon Royal Halls and kill the innocent? Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to us like this? A woman from the Divine Kingdom stood out. She looked at Lunatic arrogantly. They had already seen the images of Yun Xiang and the others in the Divine Kingdom, so when they saw Lunatic walk out of the space-time tunnel, they immediately knew that it wasn't Yun Xiang and the others. If it wasn't Yun Xiang and the others, how dare he be so arrogant in front of them? Wasn't he courting death? Who do I think I am? Lunatic muttered. Everyone in the Demon Royal Halls looked at the dozens of people from the Divine Kingdom with ridicule. You only know Yun Xiang and the others, but you don't know that the truly terrifying young people of the Sky Cloud realm haven't even made their moves yet. Who in the Sky Cloud realm didn't know of this little lunatic's ferocious name? Others couldn't wait to hide when they saw him, but these people actually took the initiative to approach him. They really admired their courage. If you don't have the strength of Yun Xiang and Li Feng, then kneel down and kowtow to apologize as soon as possible, so that we don't have to do it ourselves. Another young man from the Divine Kingdom spoke, looking at Lunatic with disdain. Yun Xiang, Li Feng. Lunatic laughed, laughing very happily, and walked toward the dozens of people step by step. You're courting death. The dozens of people from the Divine Kingdom surged with killing intent. Lunatic's eyes suddenly flashed with killing intent as he stared at the group and said, Yun Xiang, Li Feng, are they strong? Boom! The law of slaughter and the law of thunder rolled out. Two ultimate profound meanings appeared out of nowhere in an instant. As soon as the blood prison, the ultimate mystery of the law of slaughter, appeared, the world turned into a sea of blood. Lunatic walked on the sea of blood with 99 blood-colored swords behind him, emitting a sharp light that could destroy the world. Above his head, a pool of lightning shook the world, and 7-colored lightning emitted a monstrous might. With the 2 ultimate mysteries, he was like a demon god that had returned from hell. The demon palace disciples were stunned. He also grasped 2 ultimate mysteries. Although it was just 2 ordinary ultimate mysteries, it was many times stronger than them. At the same time, the pupils of the dozens of people from the divine kingdom suddenly constricted. They didn't expect such a terrifying person to be hidden in the demon palace. 2 ultimate mysteries. Such strength was enough to dominate an area. Don't keep talking to me about Yunxiang and Li Feng. I never put them in my eyes. Lunatic's domineering aura was unparalleled. As his voice landed, the 99 blood-colored swords and the pool of lightning carried an apocalyptic might as they smashed toward the group. How dare you be so presumptuous with just 2 ultimate mysteries? The eyes of the woman from the divine kingdom who spoke earlier flashed with contempt, and the law of light surged forth. In the next instant, a full moon rose, illuminating the world. Within it, auspicious beasts soared and angels danced, presenting an auspicious country. This was the ultimate mystery of the law of light, the kingdom of light. At the same time that the woman activated her ultimate mystery, another man from the divine kingdom walked out. Waves of fire surged out, and the void above instantly turned into a sea of fire. Boom! Accompanied by a terrifying divine might, a flaming giant appeared, and the place instantly turned into a large furnace. The ultimate mystery of the law of fire. Elder Hua's eyes trembled. It turned out that the people from the divine kingdom hadn't displayed their true strength when they fought with the demon palace disciples. Boom! The 4 ultimate mysteries collided. A world-destroying aura surged out in all directions like a tide. The Crimson Sword saw that the situation wasn't good and immediately activated a barrier, enveloping the entire demon palace, Elder Hua, and all the disciples. If they weren't protected, the demon palace would be razed to the ground in minutes. Not to mention the demon palace disciples. Just the shockwaves from the battle were enough to kill them. High up in the sky, the frenzy was fighting 1 against 2, and he wasn't at a disadvantage at all. To him this was nothing at all. The ultimate mysteries of the law of lightning and the law of slaughter were just one of his methods. Kill him. The eyes of the people from the divine kingdom were filled with murderous intent. The various law of light activated one after another, and all of them were ultimate mysteries. Every one of them had mastered 6 ultimate mysteries. What kind of scene was this? Elder Hua, Chu Yun, and the demon palace master couldn't help but shudder when they saw the true strength of these people, let alone the disciples below. Because the strength of any one of these people was comparable to the patriarchs of the 3 major races. This was the strength of the younger generation of the divine kingdom? The Sky Cloud realm really couldn't compare. Because in the Sky Cloud realm, other than Qin Feiyang's group, the other young people didn't even have a single ultimate mystery. This gap could be described as the difference between heaven and earth. Similarly, if the younger generation of the divine kingdom was so powerful, then how terrifying would the older generation of the divine kingdom be? It was unimaginable. If it weren't for Qin Feiyang trying his best to reach an agreement with the master of the divine kingdom, what kind of catastrophe would the Sky Cloud realm be facing now? Elder Hua, can the frenzy do it? The demon palace's second elder couldn't help but worry when he saw this scene, because he didn't know the frenzy's true strength. Seeing the people from the divine kingdom displaying such terrifying methods, he couldn't help but lose confidence in the frenzy. Don't worry, he can. Elder Hua's eyes were firm. When he fused with the law of light in the Black Tortoise realm, he already knew the frenzy's strength. Now this little guy had mastered the ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. It was merely the ultimate mysteries, no matter how many of them there were, it was meaningless. Even the people in front of him might not even be qualified for the frenzy to activate the ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. As expected, facing these dozens of divine kingdoms youths, the frenzy didn't have any intention of activating the ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. Boom! A violent, ruthless, and bloodthirsty aura erupted from his body. In the next moment, the frenzy's thin and small body continued to grow. Finally, a 10,000-foot-tall giant appeared. His entire body was covered in blood-red hair. Like an ancient giant ape, his terrifying might shattered the void and the earth. At this moment, the frenzy seemed to have transformed into a completely different person. His eyes were filled with a terrifying savagery and madness. Even the barrier laid down by the red longsword was distorting, as if it would shatter at any moment. Elder Hua and the others didn't know, but if the Feather Emperor, the Blood Ancestor, and the little rabbit were here, they would be dumbfounded. This was because the frenzy's appearance and aura were exactly the same as the Blood Demon King's. This was a demon king that made people tremble in fear upon hearing his name. After so many years, I thought that the Divine Kingdom would have changed, but I didn't expect it to become even worse. You cold-blooded things should all be killed. The frenzy's voice was like a bell, and his tone had also changed. It was filled with the smell of blood. As his voice fell, his mountain-like fist punched out. The power of the blood demon swept through the sky, and a shocking scene immediately appeared. Chapter 39:10. The mad scientist's fist smashed the ultimates one after another. It was simply unstoppable. One had to know. This was the ultimates of the ultimates. Although it couldn't be compared to the ultimates of the ultimates, it was enough to destroy the world. But in the end, it was defeated by the mad scientist's fist. The strength and power of his physical body was too terrifying. He's a monster. The dozens of people from the Divine Kingdom were dumbfounded. It was the first time they had seen someone fight with the ultimates of the ultimates of the ultimates of the ultimates. Moreover, the ultimates of the ultimates were no match for his fist. In just an instant they were all shattered. At this moment, in their eyes, the mad scientist's 10,000 feet tall body was like a fiend god. Back then your Divine Kingdom sent out so many experts, but you still couldn't conquer the Sky Cloud realm. Let alone you little thieves. The mad scientist's voice was like thunder. The blood demon's power swept towards the group of people like a tide. The blood demon's power was the fusion of the Een demon's power and the evil demon's power. It was unknown how many times stronger it was than the Een demon's power and the evil demon's power. When the blood demon's power drowned the group of people, they immediately felt the blood demon's power invading their bodies and devouring their flesh, divine power, and divine soul. In less than 3 breaths, someone couldn't take it anymore. Accompanied by a scream, his body melted and turned into a pool of blood. What kind of technique is this? The Demon Palace's disciples were shocked when they saw this scene. Strange. Elder Hua also frowned. What's strange? The Grand Elder looked at him in confusion. This mad scientist's blood demon's power. This old man has seen it before, but it wasn't so destructive. Elder Hua muttered. Moreover, he could feel that after the madman transformed, he was stronger than before. What was going on? What did he obtain in the Moon of Evil? You're courting death. The 2 young men and women who had grasped the ultimates of the ultimates saw their companions turn into pools of blood one after another. Their brows were filled with hostility. In the next moment, the crescent mark between their eyebrows emitted a dazzling divine light. Boom! Immediately after, the ultimates of the Law of Light and the Law of Fire were activated again. This time, the power unleashed by the 2 ultimate mysteries was much stronger than before. This change made Madman frown. The ultimate profundities of the Law of Slaughter and the Law of Lightning appeared in an instant, and with world-destroying power, they attacked the ultimate profundities of the Law of Light and the Law of Fire. With a loud bang, the 4 ultimate intents collided. An unexpected scene appeared. Originally, they were evenly matched ultimate profundities, but at this moment, the young man and woman's ultimate profundities of the Law of Light and the Law of Fire crushed the madman's 2 ultimate profundities like a hot knife through butter. What? Madman was shocked. Elder Hua and the others were also in disbelief. They were both using the ultimate profundities of ordinary laws, so how could he possibly suppress his opponent? What was going on? Suddenly, they looked at the crescent moon mark between their eyebrows. Could it be related to this mark? While the madman was distracted, the laws of light and the laws of fire's ultimate profundities slammed into the madman's body like 2 meteors. Little lunatic, Elder Hor exclaimed. The madman finally came back to his senses, and with a roar, he raised his 2 mountain-like hands and grabbed at the 2 ultimate profundities. But an even more shocking scene appeared. The madman grabbed the two ultimate profundities with both hands, and a wave of blood burst out from his palms. It was filled with an extremely evil aura. It was like the source of all evil. Shatter for this sovereign. In the next moment, the madman roared, and his hands exerted force. He actually used his hands to shatter the two ultimate profundities. Everyone present was stunned. Shattering two ultimate profundities with his bare hands. How was this possible? They must be dreaming. Everyone rubbed their eyes and looked at the madman again. The madman was still standing proudly in the air. Although he had shattered the two ultimate profundities, his hands were still bleeding. Every drop of blood contained an extremely terrifying evil aura, as if he was the embodiment of the source of all evil. The so-called source of all evil was the source of all evil. Too strong. Although he was injured, his huge body and the embodiment of evil weren't enough to describe the madman at this moment. He was a god that controlled all evil. Who the hell are you? The mark of the god race can greatly increase the power of the profundities. Although it can't reach the inheritance of the strongest ultimate profundities, it can still completely crush ordinary ultimate profundities. But you can actually shatter our ultimate profundities with just your body and this evil power. Are you really a young man from the sky cloud field? Why do I feel that you are more like an old antique that has lived for countless years? The young man and woman from the divine kingdom stared at the madman in horror. This was simply a monster. Old antique, the madman muttered. The insight of these two was quite strong. According to the identity of the Blood Demon King, he was indeed an old antique. But now he was the madman. A madman from the ancient world. Screams could be heard endlessly. The other young men from the divine kingdom were constantly turned into puddles of blood under the power of the blood demon. The young man and woman from the divine kingdom relied on their powerful profundities of law to barely hold on. However, they soon discovered that this evil power had begun to nibble away at their profundities of law. It can even erode the profundities of law? The two looked at each other, turned around and fled into the sky. There was no way to continue fighting with this monster. Leave! The madman chuckled. The giant blood-stained hand covered the sky and the earth as it slapped toward the two. In the palm, waves of blood rolled out like a sea of blood, drowning out all directions. If one looked carefully, they would discover that there was a blood moon mark in the center of his palm at this moment. The blood waves were born from this mark. As his palm fell, the young man and woman from the divine kingdom screamed on the spot. Blood splattered across the sky as their bodies and souls were destroyed. The other young men from the divine kingdom also died tragically under the power of the blood demon. Not a single one was left. They were all wiped out. This is the little madman's current strength? Elder Hua, Chu Yuan, and the demon hall lord looked at each other. This was completely unimaginable. The geniuses from the divine kingdom were like the sun, but they couldn't resist at all. What a terrifying fellow. Everyone said that the blood ancestor was an old demon, but it seemed that this little madman was the true demon king. High up in the sky, the madman looked in the direction of the land of the buried gods. The power of the blood demon that filled the sky returned to his body like a tide. The blood moon mark in his palm also disappeared. His body also quickly shrank and returned to the appearance of an ordinary person. Amazing! Elder Hua flew in front of the madman and chuckled. The madman turned around and looked at Elder Hua. His blood-red eyes seemed to have a trace of coldness. They didn't have the same emotions as before. This gaze made Elder Hua feel a great sense of danger. However, very quickly, the madman's eyes returned to normal as he smiled proudly. They're just a bunch of small fries. I don't care about them at all. When Elder Hua heard this, he was speechless. If that was the case, wouldn't they be worse than small fries? The madman glanced at the demon palace and suddenly froze. He asked, "You have a time array here?" Yes. This was set up by the blood ancestor. It lasts 5,000 years a day. Elder Hua nodded. Why would this old man be so kind? The madman was surprised. The blood ancestor is a pretty good person. Elder Hua smiled. He is indeed pretty good now. The madman nodded and stepped into the demon palace. I'll go into seclusion first. Don't call me if there's nothing important. Seclusion. Elder Hua was stunned. He quickly chased after the madman and said, Not long ago, the city lords reported that people from the Divine Kingdom appeared in almost all the major cities of the Eastern continent. Before you go into seclusion, can you help deal with them? As long as they don't massacre the cities, they can do whatever they want. After saying this, the madman disappeared into the depths of the demon palace without looking back. This little madman seems a little different from before. Chu Yun sat beside Elder Hua and looked into the depths of the demon palace. She frowned. There is a problem. Elder Hua nodded. There was a trace of suspicion on his face. What was going on? Time flew by. Half a year passed. Thousands of people from the Divine Kingdom swept through the entire Sky Cloud realm. Although there were casualties, there wasn't a large-scale massacre. Because these geniuses from the Divine Kingdom only went around challenging the younger generation of the Sky Cloud realm. And there wasn't a single young person in the 4 continents who could fight with them. The Divine Palace, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, and the Heavenly Palace were the same. For a time, the entire Sky Cloud realm was shrouded in a layer of oppressive atmosphere. On this day, a white-clothed youth descended on the Phoenix Nest. Not only did he challenge the younger generation of the Feng people, he didn't even let go of the older generation. However, no one in the entire Phoenix Nest was his match. In other words, this young man had overturned the entire phoenixes with his own strength. On the same day, the Qilin Sacred Land also welcomed a white-clothed youth. This youth's strength was also extremely powerful. No one in the Qilin clan was his match. After the youth left, the Qilin Sacred Land was left in a mess. Qi Xiaoyun, don't you control the ultimate law? Why didn't you make a move? After the event, the various patriarchs furiously went to Qi Xiaoyun's residence and criticized him. That's right. Throughout the entire process, Qi Xiaoyun didn't appear, as if he didn't know anything. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Do you still need me to teach you such a simple principle? Qi Xiaoyun drank the ancient dragon god tea and looked at the group of people indifferently. Qi Ji and the white-bearded old man were also sitting beside him. We know this principle, but the Divine Kingdom has already attacked the Qilin Sacred Land. Go and take a look. What has happened to the Qilin Sacred Land? Since the old ancestor passed this heavy responsibility to you before his death, you should protect the Qilin Sacred Land and our clansmen well. If you don't have the ability, then hand over the power in your hands. The various patriarchs were furious. Sure, that's exactly what I want. Whoever has the ability can go. Qi Xiaoyun said indifferently. Chapter 39:11. The patriarchs were dumbfounded when they heard Qi Xiaoyun's words. Qi Xiong was among them. Although Qi Xiaoyun was his nephew, he had always disliked Qi Xiaoyun. He had wanted to use this opportunity to make things difficult for Qi Xiaoyun. Unexpectedly, Qi Xiaoyun was really going to quit. They were at a loss as to what to do. All the sovereign weapons had acknowledged Qi Xiaoyun as their master. Moreover, Qi Xiaoyun was the only person in the entire race who had grasped the ultimate profundity of a supreme law. If he quit, wouldn't the entire race be in danger? It would be fine if this was a peaceful era. But now, a great enemy of the Divine Kingdom was right before them. With their strength, how could they contend against the Divine Kingdom without Qi Xiaoyun's help? Not talking anymore? Shut up if you don't dare. Let me say this first. If anyone dares to question my words in the future, don't blame me for not caring about our race. Disperse. Don't provoke the Divine Kingdom. You don't have the ability to do so. Qi Xiaoyun waved his hand. The group exchanged glances and left angrily. The white-bearded old man looked at Qi Xiaoyun and smiled hoarsely. Don't be influenced by these fools. You made the right decision this time. That's right. At a time like this, we'd rather suffer some grievances than show off. Qi Ji nodded. After the death of their master, the Qilin race was no longer as strong as before. It was best to avoid showing off. Otherwise, if they were targeted by the young people of the Divine Kingdom, they would have a hard time in the future. Qi Xiaoyun looked at the two and sighed. Fortunately, the two of you understand me. Don't worry. We know that every decision you make is for the good of the Qilin race. The two smiled. On the same day, a woman in a white dress entered the Devil domain. However, she was blocked outside by the barrier set up by the heavenly god sword. The heavenly god sword was a mid-grade sovereign weapon. She couldn't break through it. However, she did not leave. Longchan, please come out and fight. His voice was not very loud, but it passed through the barrier and into the dragon's nest, lingering for a long time. All the members of the dragons woke up from their seclusion, their faces full of shock. Meanwhile, in a large hall, Longchan raised his eyebrows and stepped out of the palace. Within a few breaths, he landed in front of the barrier. He looked at the woman in white outside with a cold glint in his eyes. "Are you from Longchan?" the white-dressed woman asked. "I am." Longchan nodded. She had already received news of the arrival of these people. But what they did not expect was that these people were so bold that they actually dared to come directly to the dragon's lair and challenge the siblings. Especially now, the woman in the white dress was all alone. "I heard from Ryuko that you are very strong. Come out and fight." The woman in white smiled faintly. "They're not dead?" Longchan frowned. "Of course. It's not that easy to kill them." The white-dressed woman nodded. Longchan's expression suddenly showed a trace of anger, and he mocked. "They actually left their divine souls in the divine kingdom. It seems that the people of the divine kingdom are also afraid of death." After spending so much effort, the top 10 prodigies were still alive. It was really annoying. "Isn't this normal? Don't worry about whether they're dead or not. I'm really looking forward to seeing how strong you are. Come out quickly. Don't let me come here for nothing." The white-dressed woman smiled, full of provocation. "Okay." Longchan nodded. "Your Highness, you can't." Suddenly, a figure broke through the air. It was the crown prince of the dragons. "What are you doing?" Longchan frowned. The crown prince of the dragons said, "This person knows your strength and still dares to come and challenge you. He must be very confident, so it's best to wait for His Highness Longchan to come back. If my brother doesn't come back, then are we going to stay here forever?" When Longchan heard this, he couldn't help but be annoyed. "You must be joking. How can His Highness Longchan not come back?" The crown prince of the dragons smiled awkwardly. Longchan glared at the crown prince of the dragons. He lowered his head and pondered for a while. Suddenly, a light flashed in his eyes. He looked at the white-dressed woman and said with a smile, "You must have mistaken the target of the challenge." "What do you mean?" The white-dressed woman was taken aback. Longchan said with a smile, "You should challenge Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and Golden Wings Wolf King." "Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, Golden Wings Wolf King," the white-dressed woman murmured. In the past 6 months in the Sky Cloud realm, she had heard these 3 names more than once. From everyone's words, it seemed that these 3 were very powerful people. "Wait until you defeat them, then come and challenge me." Longchan chuckled and turned to leave without looking back. The crown prince of the dragon's eyes flashed, and he quickly followed, secretly admiring Longchan's methods. Ever since the divine kingdom descended, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 had been indifferent. Even the geniuses of the divine kingdom didn't know of their existence. Longchan's action undoubtedly pushed Qin Feiyang and the other 2 to the top of the wave. Facing the provocation of the geniuses of the divine kingdom, the 3 naturally couldn't continue to slack off. The white-dressed woman looked at the 2's backs and raised her eyebrows slightly. She turned and left. Few days later, the southern continent. In the sky above a barren mountain, 2 men and a woman gathered together, their brows tightly knitted together. They were the ones who challenged the Feng people, the dragons and the Kirans. The white-dressed woman frowned and said, "Who do you think Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and Golden Wings Wolf King are? Why do the people of the Sky Cloud realm worship them so much? According to my investigation, they are indeed extraordinary. But there is one thing that is very strange. The people of the Sky Cloud realm seem to be deliberately hiding things about these 3 people." A white-clothed youth next to her said. "Hiding things?" The white-dressed woman was stunned. "Yes. In short, they don't want to talk about it." The white-clothed youth nodded. "Strange," the white-dressed woman murmured. The other white-clothed youth smiled and said, "Why think so much? Won't we know when we meet them? I don't know the whereabouts of Qin Feiyang and Golden Wings Wolf King, but I have found out the whereabouts of this Madman Mo." "Where?" The 2 looked at the white-clothed youth. Eastern Continent, Demonic Palace. And the people who went to Demonic Palace back then seem to have been killed by this person. The youth said. What? The two were shocked. Although the commotion at that time was huge because our people were all wiped out, the Demonic Palace deliberately blocked the news, so I only found out about it recently. And this madman Mo seems to still be in seclusion in the Demonic Palace, the youth said. Is that so? Then let's go to the Eastern Continent. The white-dressed woman smiled, her eyes full of expectation. Black Tortoise Realm. What's going on? Little Madman came back, but he didn't come to find us and is hiding in the Demonic Palace. The white-eyed wolf, Mas de Jura, and Princess Huafing had already come out of seclusion. At this moment, the white-eyed wolf was sitting in the tea garden, drinking from a jar of wine while complaining in dissatisfaction. Meanwhile, Fire Dance was sitting on his lap with an intimate appearance. As for the Mas de Jura, he continued to comprehend other ultimate mysteries. It is a little strange. Fire Dance nodded, pondered for a while and said, And did you notice when Elder Hua sent us a message that Madman is a little different from before? No matter how different he is still our brother. No, we have to go ask him what's going on. The white-eyed wolf stood up. Then should we inform Qin Feiyang? Fire Dance asked. This guy is focused on comprehending the law of life and death. Let's not disturb him. Let's go. Let's go find Fire Lotus. Fire Lotus can send us out. After saying that, the white-eyed wolf pulled Fire Dance and walked toward a courtyard. Chapter 39:12. The Eastern Continent. Even though Madman had killed dozens of people in the Demon Invasion Hall and 4 in Cloud Sea City, the other cities weren't so lucky. Especially East Sea City, Wind Sea City, and Sky Sea City. Those 3 cities were as famous as Cloud Sea City, and they were the 4 super cities of the Eastern Continent. Those places had practically become tourist spots for the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom. They would visit them frequently and challenge the younger generation of the human race. Could be said that the Eastern Continent was even livelier than when Qin Feiyang and the others had been here all those years ago. But the Demon Palace was very peaceful. Firstly, the barrier around the Crimson Sword prevented the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom from entering the Demon Palace. Secondly, Madman was in charge. Thirdly, the disciples of the Demon Palace were very well behaved during this period and never went out to show off. But the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom could occasionally be seen in the mountains near the Demon Palace. He wondered what they were observing in the evening. A few hundred geniuses of the Divine Kingdom were gathered in a mountain about 50 kilometers away from the Demon Palace. Regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, they all exuded an extraordinary aura. They whispered to each other as if they were waiting for something. Swoosh! Around an hour later, a spatial passageway opened up in the sky. 2 men and a woman stepped out. As soon as they appeared, the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom instantly quieted down and looked at them with reverence. How is it? The woman in white looked at the hundreds of people below and asked. One of the youths walked out. Looking at the white-robed woman, he respectfully said, During this period of time, we have been paying attention to the movements of the Devil Hall. However, this person called Madman Mo has never appeared again. Furthermore, the Devil Hall has a sovereign divine weapon. This sovereign divine weapon has sealed off the entire Devil Hall. A sovereign weapon? Don't they know that using a sovereign weapon is breaking the agreement between Qin Shaotian and the king? The woman in white frowned. Sister Shuang, they only used the sovereign weapon to defend themselves and didn't use it against us. It can't be considered breaking the agreement. The 2 youths in white smiled faintly. I finally understand. In the entire Sky Cloud realm, apart from people like Yun Xiang and Long Chan, no one else can take the stage. The white-dressed woman sneered. That's true. Not to mention the human race, even the Feng people, the dragons, and the Qilin race are not worthy of my attention. Not to mention the people of the older generation. Apart from the Feather Emperor and a few other reclusive old antiques, the strongest of the remaining people are about the same level as us. For example, the clan leaders and elders of the 3 great clans. None of them have comprehended the ultimate profound. As long as we activate the power of the mark, killing them will be a piece of cake. The young men said with disdain. The reclusive old antiques of the three major races aren't enough to reach the apex. When I went to Feng people, I took the initiative to challenge those old antiques. In the end, they all fell at my feet. One of the white-clothed youths waved his hand. Another white-clothed youth said, "When I went to the Qilin race, it was the same. Those so-called old antiques only grasped the ultimate profound of an ordinary law. With our strength, not to mention ordinary ultimate profound of an ordinary law, even the strongest ultimate profound of an ultimate law may not be our match." The white-dressed woman smiled proudly. When the two white-clothed youths heard this, they couldn't help but smile. Let's go. Let's go straight to the demon palace. It's just a barrier of a sovereign divine weapon. How can it stop me?" The white-dressed woman's eyes flashed coldly. She took a step forward and instantly traversed dozens of miles, arriving above the entrance of the demon palace. The others also followed. "Who is it?" At the entrance, the Great Elder was personally guarding. Sensing the aura of a group of people, the Great Elder immediately opened his eyes and looked up in surprise. When he saw the crescent moon mark between the brows of the white-dressed woman and the others, his eyebrows raised. "Let Madman Mo come out," the white-dressed woman said faintly. In response, the Great Elder ignored her and closed his eyes, continuing to meditate. Elder Hua and the others also sensed the aura of a group of people, but they also ignored them. The white-dressed woman raised her eyebrows, and a terrifying cold current swept out. She stared at the Great Elder and said, "I don't want to say this a second time," but the Great Elder still turned a deaf ear. If they were here as guests, he would definitely welcome them warmly and act as a host. But now, these people were obviously here to cause trouble. And with the barrier around, he was very relieved. "Sigh. An ignorant fool." The white-dressed woman shook her head and sighed. She slowly raised her arm, and the power of law surged out like a torrent. It was the time law. The Great Elder opened his eyes again and looked at the white-dressed woman in surprise. "Do you think a barrier can stop me? You must be dreaming." The white-dressed woman smiled contemptuously. Accompanied by a loud clang, a translucent longsword appeared, and its sharpness surged toward the demon palace like a tide. Boom! Under the impact of the sharpness, the barrier set up by the red longsword appeared in the void. This is the aura of the time law's ultimate intent. Elder Hua and the others couldn't stay calm anymore. They all ran out and looked at the white-dressed woman in shock. Another monster who had grasped the ultimate intent of the ultimate intent of the ultimate intent of the divine kingdom had come. Why were the young people of the divine kingdom so sick? Don't beg for mercy now because it's too late. Once an opportunity is lost, it won't come again. The white-dressed woman smiled coldly. Her longsword tore through the sky and slashed at the barrier below. "Prepare for battle." The Great Elder suddenly stood up and roared. The entire demon palace was instantly in chaos. "Battle? Haha, with your strength you dare to fight with us. Don't say that we bullied you. You can use your sovereign divine weapon and see if you can hurt us." The two white-robed youths laughed loudly. They were extremely arrogant. Elder Hua quickly asked the mad child to come out of seclusion. The demon palace master said in a deep voice, "How can the mad child not know about such a big commotion? And now he hasn't appeared. It's obvious that he's at the critical moment of his seclusion." Elder Hua shook his head. But now, other than the mad child, who else could stop these geniuses of the divine kingdom? If the other party didn't even care about the sovereign divine weapon, then their strength must have surpassed the sovereign divine weapon. Not to mention anything else. Their sovereign divine weapon alone couldn't turn the situation around. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the longsword formed by the ultimate intent of the time law had already arrived. Accompanied by a loud bang, the barrier immediately distorted. After all, it was a sovereign divine weapon. The ultimate intent and the sovereign divine weapon's power were about the same, so the first strike didn't directly break the barrier. But now, if they didn't think of a way soon, the barrier would break, because there was still a second and third strike. Clang! As expected, the longsword soared into the sky and slashed at the barrier again. Cracks immediately appeared, and the terrifying sharpness penetrated the cracks and entered the barrier. The demon palace disciples were shocked and hurriedly turned around and fled. Majestic palaces and giant peaks continued to collapse. In just an instant, the outer area of the demon palace was flattened by this sharpness. This is the power of the ultimate intent? It's terrifying. Even the barrier set up by the sovereign divine weapon can't block it. All the disciples were trembling. Their gazes also looked toward a giant peak in the depths of the demon palace. At the peak of the giant peak sat a black-clothed youth. It was the mad child. But at this moment, the mad child didn't seem to notice it and didn't move at all. Clang! The third strike also fell. If no one came out to stop it, not only would the barrier collapse, but the entire demon palace would also be razed to the ground. The people inside would also be in danger. Senior brother Mad Child, wake up! The demon palace disciples were roaring. Although Qin Feiyang and the Mad Child hadn't been to the demon palace before, they had always been disciples of the demon palace. This was something everyone knew. Moreover, Elder Hua and the others had always regarded them as disciples of the demon palace. Of course, the two of them also had another identity. They were disciples of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. In short, they had too many identities in the Sky Cloud realm. So now, these demon palace disciples all respectfully addressed the Mad Child as senior brother. Although there were many disciples here who had entered the demon palace earlier than Qin Feiyang and the Mad Child and were much older, the matter of addressing them was generally addressed by the strong. Whoever was strong would be the senior brother. Hearing everyone's cries for help, the Mad Child raised his brows and was about to open his eyes. But then, he seemed to have sensed something. The corner of his mouth raised into a smile, and then he ignored everyone's cries for help. At the same time, in the sky above the demon palace, a space-time tunnel suddenly appeared. A man and a woman walked out hand in hand. It was the white-eyed wolf in Fire Dance. Sensing the terrifying sharpness emitted by the long sword, the two of them were slightly stunned. What's going on? Immediately, they raised their heads and looked at the sky above the demon palace. Damn, they actually fought their way into the demon palace? Are they courting death? The white-eyed wolf was furious on the spot. White-eyed wolf, Princess Huafeng. Elder Hua and the others finally saw the two of them and were instantly shocked. The white-eyed wolf and Fire Dance ignored them for the time being. What are you doing? With a furious roar, the white-eyed wolf let go of Princess Huafeng and stepped in front of the door. The Law of Time rolled out and an identical long sword appeared in an instant and faced the long sword of the woman in white. It was also the ultimate meaning of the Law of Time. With a loud bang, the ground collapsed and the void was annihilated. Terrifying destructive waves surged in all directions. The woman in white was stunned. The two white-clothed youths and the hundreds of Divine Kingdom geniuses also looked at the white-eyed wolf in shock. The ultimate meaning of the Law of Time? Who was this divine being? Who is he? Why is he with Princess Huafeng? The disciples of the demon palace also looked at the white-eyed wolf with suspicion. Not many people knew about the white-eyed wolf's human form. Ever since he came out of the Skybell Divine Treasure, he had been in the Black Tortoise world. Therefore, when they saw his human form, they did not recognize him immediately. He is the Golden-Winged Wolf King. A smile finally appeared on Elder Hua's face. What? He is the Golden-Winged Wolf King. This is my first time seeing his human form. This guy really lives up to his reputation. He has also grasped the ultimate meaning of the Law of Time. Everyone was enlightened. The white-eyed wolf turned his head and looked at the disciples. He grinned and said, "Am I handsome?" Handsome. The disciples of the demon palace were stunned and then shouted in unison. Chapter 39:13. Then who is more handsome than little Qin Zi or little lunatic? The white-eyed wolf asked again. It has to be you. Everyone laughed. The heavy atmosphere instantly lightened up. You have good taste. The white-eyed wolf was very satisfied. When Lunatic heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched violently. Was he here to compare who was prettier? Golden-Winged Wolf King? At the same time, the white-dressed woman and the others looked at each other. Was this the legendary Golden-Winged Wolf King? He was indeed quite powerful. After all, he had mastered the ultimate meaning of the ultimate law. Even in the Divine Kingdom he was a rare genius. However, this person seemed a little unreliable. In layman's terms, he was not serious. The white-eyed wolf grinned at Elder Hua and the others, then turned to look at the white-dressed woman and the others. Upon closer inspection, he immediately noticed the mark between their eyebrows. Fire Dance also landed beside the white-eyed wolf. Did you guys notice? When he appeared with Princess Huafeng, they seemed to be holding hands. What's going on? Are you an idiot? Why are you asking such a question? They must be in love. In love? Then this golden-winged wolf king has profited. Look at this Princess Huafeng. She has both strength and beauty. She is simply a goddess. I'm so envious. Why don't I have such good luck? I'd better take a piss and look at myself in the mirror first. Hearing these discussions, Fire Dance turned to look at the white-eyed wolf and said proudly, "Did you hear that? You are lucky to have met me in your previous life. You really believe people when they compliment you. Naive." The white-eyed wolf looked at her with disdain. Compliment? Fire Dance immediately stared at the white-eyed wolf maliciously. The white-eyed wolf suddenly felt a chill down his spine. His face was full of flattery as he said telepathically, "My dear wife, there are so many people watching. Please leave me some face." "Who is your wife?" Fire Dance blushed and secretly glared at the white-eyed wolf. The white-dressed woman and the others were dumbfounded. Flirting in front of everyone? Did they think they didn't exist? Can't they see the situation? The white-eyed wolf looked at the group and apologized. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean you guys. But to be honest, your presence." As soon as these words were spoken, a group of people immediately flew into a rage. How could the geniuses of Scandinavia say that they didn't have any sense of existence? The white-eyed wolf looked at the mark on the group's forehead and asked, "Excuse me, what is that mark you have on you?" "Jay." This is the first time. The group of people rolled their eyes. "The god race?" The white-eyed wolf was slightly stunned and asked curiously, "What is the god race? Is it strong? How is it compared to the purple gold divine dragon race?" "The god race is not a thing. Watch your words," one of the young men said angrily. "So the god race is not a thing." The white-eyed wolf nodded and pretended to think for a while. He looked at the young man and asked, "Then what are you guys?" The young man was about to say something, but he finally realized that the white-eyed wolf was obviously teasing them. He shouted, "You are the one who is not a thing." "I'm definitely not a thing because I'm your big brother wolf, and you guys," the white-eyed wolf glanced at the group and shook his head. "You guys don't look like good people. Bastard, are you looking for death?" The group was furious. Even in the divine kingdom, no one dared to humiliate the god race, let alone an ant from a low-level civilization. The white-dressed woman's gaze also darkened slightly. She reached out her hand to stop the angry clansman. She looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, "The famous golden-winged wolf king, do you only know how to talk? You guys already know my name?" The white-eyed wolf looked at the white-dressed woman in surprise. He grinned and said, "Do you guys worship me? You don't need to worship me. I'm just a legend. But look at your aptitudes. You guys are not bad. You are barely qualified to be my followers." The white-dressed woman and the others clenched their fists when they heard that. Their eyes flashed with killing intent. "Little follower? Who gave you the guts to say such words to the people of the god race? Can you be more serious?" Fire Dance held back her laughter and looked at the white-eyed wolf unhappily. "Am I not serious?" The white-eyed wolf was stunned. He turned to look at the Demon Palace disciples and asked, "Say something fair. Am I not serious now?" Everyone in the Demon Palace, including Elder Hua and the others, could not help but roll their eyes. Could he have some self-awareness? Was there a need to ask such a question? Did he not know whether he was serious or not? Was he here to support them or to make fun of them? This was a headache. All right. The white-eyed wolf was helpless. He looked at the white-dressed woman and the others and sighed. "I'm a peace-loving person. You guys can leave. If you want to cause trouble, go and cause trouble to the Feng people, the dragons and the Kirans. Leave." The group of people laughed out of anger. The moment he arrived, he humiliated them without saying anything. Now, he wanted to send them away by saying that he was a peace-loving person. How could there be such a good thing in the world? Moreover, is this the attitude that a peace-loving person should have? He was obviously looking down on them. He did not care about them at all. Boom! The group of people could not hold back the anger in their hearts. They could not stand the white-eyed wolf's arrogant attitude. Terrifying auras burst out. Their eyes were about to spit fire. It was obvious how angry they were. The white-eyed wolf had just turned around and was about to leave with Huowu. However, when he felt the aura and anger of these people, he immediately turned around and looked at them. "You'll pay for your arrogance." Along with a furious roar, profundities of laws appeared one after another. Almost every one of them had 6 profundities of supreme profundities. Among them, 15 of them had grasped an ordinary law's ultimate profundity. This kind of strength shocked everyone in the demon palace. They did not expect that apart from the white-dressed woman and the others, there were so many people who had grasped an ultimate profundity. Although it was only an ordinary law's ultimate profundity, the strength of these 15 people was enough to wipe out the entire demon palace. No, it was enough to wipe out the entire eastern continent. Unless they used a sovereign divine weapon, no one could stop these people. Terrifying. Truly terrifying. How on earth did the younger generation of Scandinavia cultivate? They had such strength at such a young age. What do you mean by the younger generation? In terms of age, I'm afraid these people are about the same as the reclusive old antiques of the 3 major races. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips. Ha, what a frog at the bottom of a well. The god race is born with extraordinary talent. Every one of us is a monstrous genius. In a place like the Sky Cloud realm, even a super monstrous genius is at the bottom of the god race. The group of god race geniuses sneered. That's not right. According to what you said, each of you should have grasped an ultimate profundity of supreme profundity, because the few geniuses of the Sky Cloud realm, such as Li Feng and Yun Xiang, have grasped ultimate profundities of supreme profundities. But now, I don't see any of you activating an ultimate profundity of supreme profundity. In fact, many of you don't even have an ordinary law's ultimate profundity. Could it be that you're still holding back your strength? Don't. Since you're all so powerful, then show it all. Just now this brother has also broadened my horizons. I've never seen a few hundred people activating an ultimate profundity of supreme profundity at the same time. The white-eyed wolf glanced at the group of people suspiciously. When the group of god race geniuses heard this, they immediately turned green and red. Just a moment ago, he said that the super monstrous geniuses of the Sky Cloud realm could only be at the bottom of the god race. But in the next moment, the white-eyed wolf compared them to Yun Xiang and Li Feng, directly slapping them in the face. Similarly, it also made them angry out of shame. All the profundities of supreme profundities blasted toward the white-eyed wolf. What's going on? Didn't I ask you to activate the ultimate profundity of supreme profundity? The white-eyed wolf had a puzzled look. They probably prefer to keep a low profile. Fire Dance smiled slightly. When these words fell into the eyes of the group of god race geniuses, their cheeks immediately flushed, and they were too ashamed to show their faces. To hell with it. Who wants to keep a low profile? If they all grasped the ultimate profundity of supreme profundity, would they still be allowed to be so arrogant? I see. So they all like to keep a low profile. But, the white-eyed wolf nodded in realization. But in the next moment, his tone changed, revealing a shocking sharpness as he laughed sinisterly. I'm the opposite. I'm a high-profile person. Boom! As his voice fell, the ultimate profundity of the time law was activated. The long sword shattered the void, crushing everything in its path. What supreme profundities? What ordinary ultimate profundities? They were like dead trees that couldn't withstand a single blow. With their profundities crushed, the group of god race geniuses suffered a backlash. Blood gushed out and their faces turned pale. You like to keep a high profile? Then we'll follow your high profile and go to hell together. The woman in the white dress made her move. Accompanied by a loud clang, she also immediately activated the ultimate profundity of the time law and slashed at the white-eyed wolf. White-eyed wolf, go to the galaxy. Elder Hor reminded. Okay. The white-eyed wolf grabbed the longsword and rushed toward the galaxy. Once a battle of this level completely erupted, the demonic palace would be destroyed in a matter of minutes. Even the living beings in the vicinity would be annihilated. This was because there were already many people and beasts watching the battle from afar. Since you're so arrogant, you must have a way to protect them. Let's fight here. However, the woman in the white dress wasn't willing to go to the galaxy, nor did she chase after the white-eyed wolf. She slashed her sword at Princess Huafeng. This was because as long as she attacked Princess Huafeng, the white-eyed wolf would come down himself. The white-eyed wolf stopped and lowered his head to look at the woman in the white dress. His eyes were filled with killing intent. How dare she attack his woman? She was courting death. This is a contest between us. Why do you have to involve those innocent living beings? Are human lives so cheap in your eyes? Chapter 39:14. When the white-dressed woman heard this, her eyes were filled with disdain. She said indifferently, "Just a bunch of ants, worthless. What about you? Are your lives worth anything?" A cold light flashed in Princess Huafeng's eyes. "How can you lowly creatures compare to the God clan? Instead of worrying about them, you should think about your own situation first." The white-dressed woman's eyes flashed with killing intent. Her long sword had already reached Princess Huafeng. You're really infuriating." Princess Huafeng enunciated each word. Her tone was extremely cold. The next moment, boom! A dazzling golden light appeared. A golden divine lotus as huge as a mountain appeared. It carried the power to destroy the world and suppress the white-dressed woman. "Karma divine lotus!" the white-dressed woman exclaimed. She quickly waved her long sword and slashed at the Karma divine lotus. The two white-dressed youths and the hundreds of God clan geniuses also looked at Princess Huafeng in shock. Before, Huowu had been standing behind the white-eyed wolf, so they thought that this woman's strength was not that great. But they never expected that she had grasped the ultimate profundity of the ultimate law. Wasn't it agreed that the only young geniuses in the Sky Cloud realm were Yun Xiang, Li Feng, Long Chan and Long Qin? But now, not only was there Madman Mo and the Golden-Winged Wolf King, but there was also an unknown woman? Boom! In an instant, the long sword and the Karma divine lotus collided. A destructive power erupted. Go to the galaxy. Elder Hua was extremely anxious. Although the red longsword had repaired the broken barrier, it would shatter sooner or later if this continued. "Elder Hua, don't worry." Huowu smiled. With a wave of her hand, the Phoenix Bell and the other 11 sovereign divine weapons appeared. What? The God clan geniuses were shocked again. Many of them turned around and ran. Even the woman in white was forced back by the Karma divine lotus with a single strike of her sword. She instinctively retreated. Who could remain calm in the face of 11 sovereign divine weapons? "Don't worry. I won't break the promise." Fire Dance pursed her lips into a sneer. Wasn't he arrogant? Why are you running when you see a sovereign weapon? Boom! As soon as Fire Dance finished speaking, the 11 ruler weapons soared into the sky. Divine might enveloped the entire area. However, in the blink of an eye, a gigantic barrier appeared, isolating the battlefield. "It's all right." Elder Hua heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this. "As long as it doesn't affect the demon hall and those innocent living beings, you can do whatever you want." Haha, it's just an isolated battlefield. And you so-called geniuses of the god race are scared to this extent. What an eye-opener. Inside the barrier, the white-eyed wolf stood in the air, laughing non-stop. Clang! The woman in the white dress immediately soared into the sky and slashed out with her sword. "You're still angry from embarrassment? I'm the one who should be angry. You actually dared to touch my woman. You really haven't fucking died yet." The white-eyed wolf laughed angrily. With a monstrous aura, he charged toward the woman in the white dress. The two young men in white looked at each other, then at Fire Dance at the same time. This woman was the most threatening person. A total of 11 ruler weapons. Even prodigies of the god race like them could only dream of obtaining them. One of the young men immediately took a step forward. With a terrifying aura, he charged toward Fire Dance and said, "I'm Jiang Chun. Please advise me." Fire Dance glanced at him and directly stepped out of the barrier. The young man froze. A person who grasped the ultimate profundity of the strongest law, a person who held 11 ruler weapons, actually chose to avoid a battle? Why didn't the people of the Sky Cloud realm play their cards according to common sense? This feeling was like a punch that had been charged for a long time had landed on soft cotton. He was extremely annoyed. With my man here, do you still need me to make a move? Fire Dance smiled confidently. Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows and looked up at the white-eyed wolf. She actually has so much confidence in this person? Good. Then let's see what kind of means she has. High up in the sky, the white-eyed wolf and the woman in white were locked in battle. The power of the law of time was surging like a tide. The surrounding void was collapsing crazily. If this continues, you have no chance of winning. Hurry up and show me your other means. The white-eyed wolf was fighting with ease. In terms of combat experience and awareness, who was he afraid of? As you wish. Boom! Accompanied by the appearance of a lightning pool, streaks of 7-colored divine lightning roared in the sky. The ultimate profundity of the law of thunder. Is she in existence on the same level as the original 10 prodigies? Elder Hua and the others were surprised and couldn't help but worry. This was because they knew that the white-eyed wolf had only grasped the ultimate profundity of the law of time. The other 5 profundities were only at the level of supreme profundities. Boom! The law of thunder and the law of time, 2 ultimate profundities, attacked the white-eyed wolf one after another. It's true that I have only grasped 1 ultimate profundity. However, if you think that you can defeat me with an ordinary ultimate profundity of the law of time, then you must be dreaming. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand and attacked with his longsword. Immediately after, a flame mark appeared in between his eyebrows. It exuded a terrifying aura. Roar! In the next instant, a giant blood-colored wolf rushed out from the mark. It was 10,000 feet long and had 10 pairs of blood-red wings on its back. Its aura was monstrous. What the hell is that? The group of God race members were bewildered. This was because they felt a very dangerous aura from the giant blood-colored wolf. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the 2 ultimate profundities of the law of time collided first. Accompanied by an earth-shattering explosion, the 2 ultimate profundities shattered at the same time. Immediately after, the giant blood-colored wolf rushed toward the woman in white's ultimate profundity of the law of thunder. What? He wants to use this to go against the ultimate profundity of the law of thunder? What kind of joke is this? No matter how heaven-defying a technique is, it's impossible to compete with an ultimate profundity. The group of God race members had mocking looks on their faces. This was simply asking for humiliation. However, in the next moment, a scene that left them dumbfounded appeared. The giant blood-colored wolf roared and charged forward. It actually dissipated in the void at the same time as the ultimate profundity of the law of thunder. They were evenly matched. Not to mention the group of God race members, even Elder Hua and the others had a look of disbelief on their faces. It seems to have become stronger again, Hua Wu muttered. Of course, she knew the white-eyed wolf's situation like the back of her hand. The white-eyed wolf had activated this giant blood-colored wolf in the past. It was even more terrifying than a super forbidden technique. Although that was the case, it had not reached the point where it could compete with an ultimate profundity before. Even if it was just an ordinary ultimate profundity of the law of thunder, it would not be enough. However, now, it could actually compete with an ordinary ultimate profundity of the law of thunder. It was obviously much stronger than before. Could it be that as the white-eyed wolf's strength increased, the giant blood-colored wolf's strength would also increase as well? This is really surprising. This technique has already surpassed the category of a forbidden technique. The woman in the white dress was also stunned for a moment. When she regained her senses, she looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, "Thank you for the compliment." The white-eyed wolf laughed out loud. His face was full of pride. However, that's all. The woman in the white dress gaze trembled. The ultimate profundity of the law of time and the law of thunder appeared again. However, it was not over yet. Another law of thunder emerged. Moreover, it was not an ordinary law of thunder. It was an ultimate law, the law of destruction. Accompanied by a terrifying aura, the ultimate profundity, the heavenly eye of destruction appeared. What? Looking at this scene, even Princess Huafeng's expression changed. She had actually mastered 3 ultimate profundities and 2 ultimate profundities of the law of thunder. Her strength has indeed surpassed the previous 10 sky prides. The white-eyed wolf might be in danger. Elder Hua was even more worried. The white-eyed wolf's strength was undeniable. He had mastered 6 ultimate laws. If he could comprehend an ultimate profundity, he would definitely be an invincible existence. However, the key point was, right now, the white-eyed wolf had only mastered 1 ultimate profundity. Although the blood-red wolf was heaven-defying, it could only compete with the ultimate profundity of an ordinary law. How could he possibly defeat the opponent? So this is her strength. No wonder she dared to come to the dragon nest alone to challenge me. In the distance, on a mountain peak, a woman stood facing the wind. It was Long Qin. Although the battle had not been going on for long, it had already spread throughout the sky cloud realm. Therefore, not only Long Qin, but also people from the Feng people and the Kirin clan had come to watch the battle. Because this was the white-eyed wolf's first battle after coming out of the Skybell divine treasure, regardless of friend or foe, they were all very concerned. Prepare to die. The woman in the white dress waved her hand. The 3 ultimate profundities carried an aura of destruction that shook heaven and earth as they crazily attacked the white-eyed wolf. I really regret it. The white-eyed wolf's expression was extremely angry. What do you mean? Everyone was a little confused. I shouldn't have fused those laws in the past. If I had stayed until now, I wouldn't have needed to comprehend the ultimate profundities by myself. The white-eyed wolf sighed. These words almost made Elder Hua and the others vomit blood. This was a classic example of taking advantage of others and pretending to be innocent. Why don't you think about it? If you hadn't fused the 6 ultimate laws in the past, would you have been able to reach this step so smoothly? If you didn't have these laws, would you have made such a name for yourself? The most important thing was, if you hadn't fused them back then, with your lazy personality, I'm afraid your cultivation would still be at the peak imperishable realm. What can a peak imperishable realm cultivation do? Not to mention the people of the divine kingdom, even the creatures of the sky cloud realm could casually pick one out and kill you. Don't be so greedy, okay? Go and ask around. Who in the sky cloud realm doesn't envy you for mastering the 6 ultimate laws? In short, this guy was so lazy that others could only look up to him. Because the white-eyed wolf wasn't untalented. On the contrary, he was very talented. If he was willing to work hard, even if he didn't fuse the laws, his achievements wouldn't be lower than Qin Feiyang's. But he was just lazy and didn't want to comprehend the laws. In any case, his life motto was, if you can pick up ready-made things, don't work hard. Can you be a little more serious? This is a battle of life and death. Do you think it's a game? Looking at the white-eyed wolf's sloppy attitude, the woman in the white dress was about to go crazy. How much did he look down on her? Facing her 3 ultimate profundities, he still had the mood to think about other things. Chapter 39:15. Calm down, calm down. 3 ultimate profound meanings. I'm definitely no match for you. After saying that, the white-eyed wolf activated the moment of time and ran away. That was true. How could he fight against 3 ultimate profound meanings? He could only run. That's it? The group of deities below looked at each other in dismay. They thought that since this person was so arrogant, he must have means that were not inferior to Long Chan and Li Feng. But in the end, he only mastered 1 ultimate profound of the law of time. How dare he be arrogant in front of them with such little strength? The woman in white did not expect the white-eyed wolf to run away. The 3 ultimate profound meanings missed their target and bombarded the barrier. A world-destroying aura immediately erupted, but the barrier was not damaged. After all, it was a barrier set up by 11 sovereign divine weapons. That was close. The white-eyed wolf appeared on the other side. Looking at the barrier that was shaking violently, his face was full of fear. If he was hit by the 3 ultimate profound meanings, would he die in one piece? The woman in white came back to her senses and suddenly turned to look at the white-eyed wolf. Don't look at me like that. Your big brother dodged your 3 ultimate profundities with his own strength. The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. You're still smiling? The woman in white's eyes flashed coldly. She activated the moment of time and charged toward the white-eyed wolf. Damn it! You want to kill me so much? The white-eyed wolf's face changed. He activated the moment of time and played a game of cat and mouse in the barrier. The white-eyed wolf desperately ran in front, while the woman in white chased crazily from behind. Can you stop chasing me? I'm already taken. Although you look okay, I don't like you. As a woman, can't you be more reserved? The white-eyed wolf kept howling, full of provocation. Bastard! The woman in white trembled with anger. How could there be such a despicable person? Deep hatred, deep love. It's not good for you to be like this. The white-eyed wolf turned to the woman in white and grinned. Bastard! You actually dared to tease Sister Shuang again and again. Let's attack together and kill him. The two white-clothed youths' faces also darkened as their auras surged out. I don't need your help. The woman in the white dress yelled coldly as beams of divine light shot out from the crescent mark on her forehead. Be careful. When Elder Hua saw this, he quickly reminded him. Whoosh! Once the imprint was restored, the woman in white activated the flash of light and shadow, and her speed increased dramatically. In the blink of an eye, he caught up with the white-eyed wolf and slapped the white-eyed wolf's back. What? The white-eyed wolf turned pale with fright. There was actually such a thing? Caught off guard. After receiving a solid palm strike, he spat out a mouthful of golden blood. His entire body was like a meteor. It smashed into the ground below. Golden blood. The group from the god race was shocked. Boom! With a loud bang, the white-eyed wolf smashed deep into the ground, creating a huge crater. Drenched in blood? He was in an extremely sorry state. How could this be? Fire Dance looked at the imprint on the woman in white's forehead. There was a trace of bewilderment in her eyes. This seems to be called the god race imprint. Can increase their strength. When little lunatic fought with the god race, he almost suffered a great loss. Elder Hua walked to Fire Dance's side. He said in a deep voice, God race imprint. Fire Dance murmured as she lowered her head to look at the white-eyed wolf lying in the crater. He looked extremely dissatisfied. He actually dared to tease another woman in front of her. It seemed that he was itching for a beating. The crater was extremely damaged. Dust billowed in the air. The woman in white stood in the air, looking at the golden blood floating in the air. There was also a trace of surprise in her eyes. However, she quickly threw it to the back of her mind. Who cares what bloodline you have? You'll become a corpse soon anyway. While you're sick, I'll take your life. The three ultimate mysteries appeared again, carrying a destructive aura as they charged toward the white-eyed wolf in the crater. Girl, quickly go and help him. Elder Hua hurriedly looked at Fire Dance. He deserves to die. Fire Dance snorted coldly. Who asked you to tease him? Continue. Elder Hua was speechless. Why are you still angry? Damn it. Do you really think I'm a kitten? The white-eyed wolf's angry roar resounded. Then, a terrifying aura surged out like a volcanic eruption. In the next moment, a dazzling golden light roared out from the crater. It shot straight into the sky. The area within the barrier instantly turned into a golden ocean. Along with the appearance of the golden light, a golden beast shadow appeared in the sky. It was the white-eyed wolf's fighting soul. As soon as the fighting soul appeared, the entire area shook. Everyone present felt a fear that came from the depths of their souls. What's that? The group of god race people looked at the golden beast shadow in shock. Deprive. A loud voice resounded. It was like the sound of heaven, resounding in everyone's mind. Then a scene that made the woman in white panic appeared. The golden beast shadow opened its mouth, and a terrifying force drowned her like a tide. She immediately felt that the force was depriving her of her cultivation. What was going on? In a moment of desperation, she hurriedly used the power of law to suppress this force, but she realized that she could not suppress it. Her cultivation was being rapidly deprived. Oh right. How could I forget about his fighting soul? Elder Hua looked at this scene and slapped his head hard. One had to know the white-eyed wolf's special ability could not only deprive others of their fighting souls, but also their cultivation and laws. But in comparison, it was faster and more difficult to deprive one of their laws, because it required a certain amount of time. Right now, the white-eyed wolf obviously did not have the time to deprive the other party of her laws. This was because the three ultimate profound meanings of the woman in white were charging toward him aggressively. In addition, the woman in white was very powerful and had a group of companions. She would definitely not give him the time to deprive her of her laws. Therefore, the white-eyed wolf chose to deprive her of her cultivation. Depriving her of her cultivation was faster and easier than depriving her of her laws. As long as he could deprive the woman in white of her cultivation by a small level, the power of her ultimate profound meaning would naturally plummet. That was right. This was the white-eyed wolf's trump card. It was enough to make anyone tremble in fear. Previously, the white-eyed wolf's cheeky smile was actually not to tease the woman in white, but to numb her and make her careless. Once the woman in white became careless, his plan to deprive her of her cultivation would naturally be easier to accomplish. In the blink of an eye, just as the three ultimate profound meanings were about to reach the white-eyed wolf, the woman in white's cultivation suddenly dropped to the perfected dominator realm. How is this possible? Not only the woman in white, but the group of God clan below also had a look of disbelief on their faces. It could actually suppress one's cultivation? They had not realized the seriousness of the problem. This was not suppression at all but deprivation. Suppression was only temporary. Deprivation, on the other hand, was permanent. As the woman in white's cultivation dropped, the power of the three ultimate profound meanings suddenly dropped by a level. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand and activated the space-time law ultimate profound meaning. He grabbed the long sword and slashed it in the air. With a loud bang, the three ultimate profound meanings were annihilated on the spot. It was completely destroyed. This must be a dream. The shock in the hearts of the God race group could not be any greater. What kind of technique was this? Whoosh! The white-eyed wolf took a step forward and instantly soared into the sky. He stood in front of the golden beast and looked at the woman in white with a mocking smile. What did you do to me? The woman in white had a gloomy expression. Isn't this right in front of you? Now you are a perfected dominator. And I, your brother, am a perfected dominator. Even if you have mastered the three ultimate profound meanings, even if that mark can increase your strength, it cannot make up for the difference in our cultivation levels. The white-eyed wolf had a smug expression. They had the same ultimate profound meaning but different cultivation levels. It was a completely one-sided situation. The woman in white's heart sank. She looked up at the golden beast. Boom! Suddenly 2 white-robed youths attacked and shattered the golden beast. They thought that as long as the golden beast disappeared, the woman in white's cultivation level would recover. However, the result left them dumbfounded. Although the golden beast had disappeared, the woman in white's cultivation level had not recovered. She was still a perfected dominator. What was going on? This time the group of God clan was completely dumbfounded. It seems that you haven't realized the seriousness of the problem. The corners of the white-eyed wolf's mouth lifted. He did not conceal his mocking expression. Hearing this, the group of people suddenly felt uneasy. Could it be, if you encountered Long Chan and the others, even if you died in the Sky Cloud realm, you would not be affected? Because as long as you leave behind your divine soul in the divine kingdom in advance, you can be reborn. Your strength will not change at all. However, you are unfortunate to encounter me now. Even if you leave behind your divine soul in the divine kingdom, you will not be able to recover the cultivation that was taken away. The white-eyed wolf looked at the woman in white and grinned. Taken away. The woman in white trembled. Could it be that it was really as she thought? This was not a temporary loss of cultivation, but a permanent loss? Do not doubt your guess. This is a permanent loss. However, you do not need to be anxious. When you return to the divine kingdom, work hard and comprehend a new ultimate profound meaning. Your cultivation level will naturally recover to the perfected dominator realm. But now, I will send you back to the divine kingdom. Killing intent flashed in the white-eyed wolf's eyes. He activated Moment of Time and instantly landed in front of the woman in white. The long sword in his hand tore through the sky. The woman in white screamed and was killed on the spot. Sister Shuang, Zhang Chan and the other man were furious when they saw this scene. However, the other people of the God clan were terrified. Permanent loss of cultivation? What kind of joke was this? How could there be such a ridiculous method? Who in the world did not understand the impact of the difference in cultivation level? Even if you mastered the ultimate meaning of the 6 strongest ultimate laws, if your cultivation level was lower than the other parties, the other party could still crush you. It was not until this moment that they realized how terrifying the legendary golden-winged wolf king was. Taking away cultivation, this was simply a nightmare for all living things in the world. Not convinced, the white-eyed wolf lowered his head and looked at Jiang Chen and the other man. His eyes were full of ridicule. Looking at the white-eyed wolf, the two of them could not help but narrow their eyes. They could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. Chapter 39:16. Jiang Xing, don't panic. As long as we don't give him time to deprive us of our cultivation. Jiang Chen suppressed the fear in his heart and looked at the white-clothed youth beside him. That's right. Jiang Xing nodded. The white-clothed woman was schemed against because she was careless. But now that they knew about this method, they just needed to be on guard in advance. Kill. The two took a step forward, and the power of law roared in all directions. Boom. However, at the same time, a terrifying evil aura erupted from the mountain peak in the depths of the Devil Palace. Madman, who was sitting cross-legged on the mountain peak, finally opened his eyes. 2 rays of bloody light burst out from his eyes. At this moment, he was like a god that controlled all evil. Haha, in my previous life, I tried every method but was unable to successfully fuse with the source of all evil. But in this life I actually succeeded so smoothly. It seems that I am more outstanding in this life. Divine Kingdom despair. Madman raised his head and laughed. His expression was filled with excitement, as if he had obtained a great fortune. Are you crazy? The white-eyed wolf was taken aback and looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. He didn't know until he looked, but he was shocked. The current madman gave him an extremely strange feeling. Shua. At this moment, Madman also looked at the battlefield. He stood up and took a step forward. The next moment he appeared inside the barrier. Little Madman, why are you joining in the fun? The white-eyed wolf frowned. Madman raised his head and looked at the white-eyed wolf. His eyes were incomparably cold, which made the white-eyed wolf frown. But at the same time, there seemed to be a trace of struggle in Madman's expression. His cold eyes gradually returned to normal as he laughed. I should be the one asking you this question. Why are you joining in the fun? The white-eyed wolf smiled. This was the little madman he was familiar with. Don't meddle in other people's business. They are my prey. Madman took a step forward and stood in front of Jiang Chen and Jiang Xing. His entire body emitted a terrifying aura. Each one is more arrogant than the other. Jiang Chen was furious. Boom! The power of law roared out. It was the law of space and time. With the activation of the space-time laws, a river of stars descended, its vast chi shaking the heavens and earth. Don't be shy. Both of you come at me together. Madman chuckled. A terrifying space-time energy surged out of his body. A river of stars appeared. What? He actually also grasped the ultimate profundity of an ultimate law. Jiang Xing was stunned. Didn't they say that this person had grasped the ultimate profundities of the laws of thunder and the laws of slaughter? Boom! The 2 star rivers instantly collided. A destructive aura instantly enveloped the entire area. Jiang Chen was also very surprised. However, the cold light in his eyes became even more intense. The crescent moon mark on his forehead gave off a dazzling divine light. The next moment, 3 ultimate profound meanings appeared. They were the space-time laws of nature, the darkness laws of nature, and the light laws of nature. It seems that your strength is not as good as that woman from before. The madman's lips curled up in disdain as he looked at the 3 ultimate profundities. The laws of thunder, the laws of slaughter, and the laws of space and time manifested in the sky. Although the woman in white also had 3 ultimate profundities, 2 of them were ultimate profundities of supreme laws. As for this person, he only had 1 ultimate profundity of supreme laws. Even if I'm not as good as Sister Shuang, I can still trample you under my feet. Jiang Chen's gaze was bone-chillingly cold. The 3 ultimate profundities carried a monstrous might as they attacked the madman. Because of the amplification of the God race mark, these 3 ultimate profundities had already surpassed their original power. Accompanied by an earth-shattering explosion, the madman's 3 ultimate profundities were directly destroyed. This God race mark is indeed extraordinary. The madman muttered. Half a year ago, the strongest god race genius he killed only grasped the ultimate profundities of ordinary laws. But now this Jiang Chun had grasped the ultimate profundities of supreme laws. This was the difference between heaven and earth. If it was half a year ago, he definitely wouldn't be able to compete with the ultimate profundities of supreme laws enhanced by the god race mark. But now thinking of this, the madman's lips curled up as his body instantly turned into a sea of blood. Roar! The next moment, accompanied by a beast-like roar, the madman revealed his enormous body. An evil aura surged within the barrier like an angry wave. And this time, the mark of a blood moon appeared between his eyebrows, as if it was cast from blood. Evil moon. The white-eyed wolf was bewildered. No, this is the source of all evil. The madman spoke. Even his voice was like a devil, making one's hair stand on end. Boom! The next moment, he raised his mountain-like arm and threw a punch at the three ultimate profundities. Accompanied by a loud explosion, Jiang Chen's ultimate profundities of darkness and light shattered on the spot. What? Jiang Chen's expression changed. The ultimate profundities enhanced by the god race mark were actually so weak in front of this person? No, I don't believe it. The next moment, an even more shocking scene appeared. The madman's fist exuded a shocking evil power, as he threw another punch at the galaxy formed by the ultimate profundities of space and time. The world buzzed. Blood dyed the earth red. Under everyone's gaze, the power of the madman's punch was actually able to shake the galaxy. This, not only the people from the god race, but even the white-eyed wolf and the others were filled with disbelief when they saw this scene. What kind of power was this? One must know. After being enhanced by the god race mark, Jiang Chen's ultimate profundities of time was enough to suppress the strongest ultimate profundities of the same realm. But now, the power of the madman's punch was actually on par with it. What's going on? I remember half a year ago, after his transformation, he could barely shake an ordinary ultimate profundities enhanced by the god race mark. Everyone in the demon palace, including Elder Hua and the others, had a puzzled expression. Half a year ago, they had all witnessed the strength that the madman displayed with their own eyes. But today, half a year later, his strength had doubled again. How did he cultivate in seclusion for half a year? If he could even compete with the strongest ultimate profundities enhanced by the god race mark, then wouldn't he be able to crush the ultimate profundities that weren't enhanced by the god race mark? Shatter for me! The madman roared as he raised his other fist. It carried with it the power to destroy heaven and earth as it smashed towards the galaxy. The Xing River was vast, but the madman's current body was like an ancient giant and was even more shocking. Boom! As the fist landed, the Xing River collapsed on the spot with a loud bang. The madman's fist was also split open as his flesh and blood splattered everywhere. His bones were clearly visible. No matter what, this godly power made everyone's scalp go numb. This was too heaven-defying. Using his own strength to shatter an ultimate profundities of time? And it was an ultimate profundities enhanced by the god race mark. Indeed, if it wasn't for the enhancement of the god race mark, the madman would have been able to crush it easily. This isn't the power of his physical body. Suddenly, a voice sounded. 3 figures had appeared in the sky above the demon palace at some point in time. They were the Feather Emperor, the Little Rabbit, and the Blood Ancestor. Greetings, lords. Elder Hua and the others hurriedly bowed. The Feather Emperor waved his hand and looked up at the madman with a trace of shock in his eyes. Was this the power of the source of all evil? How terrifying! Fire Dance landed beside the 3 and looked at the Feather Emperor suspiciously. You just said that this isn't the power of the madman's physical body? Yes. No matter what kind of living being he is, it's impossible for him to be so powerful. The Feather Emperor nodded. Then what kind of power is this? The white-eyed wolf also stepped out of the barrier and landed beside Fire Dance with a frown. The source of all evil. The Feather Emperor enunciated each word clearly. The source of all evil? The white-eyed wolf and Fire Dance looked at each other with confusion in their eyes. Elder Hua and the others were also puzzled. Inside the barrier, the God Race group looked at the madman with their mouths agape. The power that the madman displayed had far exceeded their understanding. Jiang Chun came back to his senses and immediately roared. Boom! Jiang Xing, who was in a daze below, immediately quivered. The power of 3 laws surged out as he landed beside Jiang Chan. Obviously, the two were ready to join forces. They had no choice but to join forces because the madman's strength was too strong. We should have attacked together a long time ago. The madman smiled sinisterly as his eyes emitted a ruthless light. Boom! A destructive force emerged. In the sky a huge eye appeared. It was the ultimate meaning of the law of destruction, heavenly eye. What? How did this little madman master the ultimate meaning of the law of destruction? The white-eyed wolf and Fire Dance were stunned. Of course, they knew the madman's strength. Apart from the law of thunder and the law of slaughter, there was also the law of spacetime inheritance that the divine king of primal chaos gave him. Moreover, they didn't remember receiving the law of destruction inheritance in the Skybell divine treasure. Could it be that this guy comprehended it himself? But that was impossible. How long had it been since he returned to the Sky Cloud realm? The Feather Emperor and the others looked at each other and murmured, "It seems that he has integrated the inheritance of his previous life." Previous life? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. Suddenly, he remembered that when the madman was laughing on the mountain peak, he seemed to have mentioned his previous life? Wait, don't tell me that he is really the reincarnation of the Blood Demon King? The white-eyed wolf looked at the Feather Emperor and the others in surprise. He is. The Blood Ancestor nodded. Damn. The white-eyed wolf was stunned and looked up at the madman. Fire Dance asked, "So, this law of destruction is the inheritance of his previous life?" Yes. And now, he should have recovered the memories of his previous life. The Feather Emperor sighed. Inside the enchantment, the aura of the law of destruction surged like angry waves. The madman directly activated the 4 ultimate meanings. But Jiang Xing's strength wasn't weak either. The law of devour, the law of sword, and the law of metal were 3 ultimate meanings. Together with Jiang Chen's 3 ultimate meanings, there were a total of 2 ultimate meanings of the strongest laws and 4 ultimate meanings of the ordinary laws. It could be said that, even if the madman had mastered the 4 ultimate meanings, he couldn't be compared to the 2. Moreover, at this moment, the 2 had already activated the power of the God Race mark. "No. Brother, go help him," the white-eyed wolf said in a deep voice. "No need. The power of the source of all evil is not just that. It can also increase the power of the law of destruction." Chapter 39:17. It can't be. The white-eyed wolf looked at the madman in disbelief. As expected, the mark on the madman's forehead emitted rays of divine light that merged with the 4 ultimate intents. The aura of the 4 ultimate intents immediately soared. Fuck, how can there be such a freak? The white-eyed wolf cursed. Don't just talk about others. Aren't you a freak too? When the Demon Palace disciples heard the white-eyed wolf's cursing, they couldn't help but grumble inwardly. The madman is indeed powerful, but you aren't bad either. From a certain perspective, the ability to strip cultivation was even more freakish than the madman. Take the madman and the white-eyed wolf as a comparison. If the madman was facing the white-eyed wolf, and the white-eyed wolf used its innate ability to strip the madman of his cultivation, then no matter how strong the source of all evil was, the madman wouldn't be a match for the white-eyed wolf. Just as the God Race genius said, the white-eyed wolf was the nemesis of all living beings in the world. Boom! Inside the barrier, the 10 ultimate intents clashed. Both ultimate intents were supported by a special power. That was simply a scene of apocalypse. Even the barrier set up by the 11 sovereign weapons of the Fire Phoenix Sword was distorting at this moment. However, after all, Jiang Chan and Jiang Xing were working together. As the saying goes, one fist can't beat 4 hands. The madman's 4 ultimate intents were shattered one after another. Jiang Chan and Jiang Xing's 6 ultimate intents, and 2 ordinary ultimate intents of laws still remained. They charged at the madman with murderous intent. However, was the madman afraid? Of course not. Right now, his physical body was his strongest weapon. Boom! His flesh-lacerated fist punched out, and the 2 ultimate profundities of the ordinary laws were immediately dispersed. Could be said that, at this moment, any punch he threw out contained lethality that surpassed the strongest ultimate intents of laws. After shattering the two ordinary ultimate intensive laws, the madman raised his giant foot and stomped toward Jiang Qian and Jiang Xing. The source of all evil's power surged out. The two's expression changed. In a moment of desperation, he hurriedly threw out a punch. As geniuses of the god race, their physical bodies weren't weak either. They had already reached the heaven-defying supreme level. But compared to a madman, there was a huge difference. Even a dominator weapon wouldn't dare to clash with the madman. When the madman's foot landed, the two of them let out miserable screams as their bodies shattered. The two of them were terrified and quickly escaped with their shattered bodies. Rumble! When his foot landed on the ground, a 10,000 feet deep footprint was left behind. Looking at this scene, everyone could not help but feel their scalps go numb. If he was stepped on, wouldn't he be turned into a meat patty on the spot? Go! Jiang Chun turned around and looked at Madman in horror. Then he shouted at the god race. It was too terrifying. The power of each punch and kick was stronger than an ultimate profound. He was simply an invincible existence. Actually, the rest of the deity race had wanted to leave long ago. It was just that Jiang Chen and the other deity race cultivator did not say anything. Therefore, when they heard Jiang Chen's words, one of the young men immediately activated the momentary time and led a group of people to escape. However, the barrier set up by the dominator weapons such as the Fire Phoenix sword was still there. Remove the barrier immediately. Jiang Xing turned around and shouted at Huo Wu. Princess Huafeng frowned. Remove the barrier. Feather Emperor said. If it was just isolating a battlefield, the dominator weapons would not be considered interfering. But if they stopped these people from escaping, it would be interfering with the battle. Interfering with the battle was breaking the agreement. This agreement was something that Qin Feiyang had fought for with great difficulty. It was not going to be broken just like that. Okay. Huo Wu nodded and looked at the dominator weapons such as the Fire Phoenix sword. Immediately, the barrier dissipated. The group of people escaped without looking back. Madman's murderous aura surged. Without any hesitation, he activated the momentary time and chased after them. Don't chase! Feather Emperor hurriedly shouted. Without the help of the dominator weapons such as the Fire Phoenix sword, once the battle broke out again, innocent lives would be hurt. Madman raised his eyebrows and turned to look at Feather Emperor. He said coldly, "Are you ordering me?" At this moment, Madman was unprecedentedly unfamiliar. Even when he looked at the white-eyed wolf and Huo Wu, there was no emotion in his eyes. How would I dare to order you? Feather Emperor smiled bitterly. This was the Blood Demon King. Even when facing people like him and the Blood Ancestor, he would not show mercy. However, Madman did not buy it. His eyes flashed with killing intent. What's going on? The white-eyed wolf frowned. Even if Madman had recovered the memories of his previous life, he should not be so cold. After all, in order to protect the Sky Cloud realm, he was considered a partner with Feather Emperor and others. You don't understand the Blood Demon King. Although we fought together in the past, our relationship is not as good as you think. Feather Emperor sighed. Could it be that you were opponents in the past? The white-eyed wolf was bewildered. That's not the case. When the Blood Demon clan was in the Sky Cloud realm, they were very low-key. Whether it was the human clan, the dragons, the Feng people, or the Kirin clan, he did not pay much attention to them. So to speak, we did not have much interaction. Feather Emperor shook his head. That's good. The white-eyed wolf breathed a sigh of relief. If Blood Demon King and Feather Emperor were opponents in the past, now that Madman had recovered the memories of his previous life, he might be affected by them and become their opponents. Don't relax. Back then, the purple gold divine dragon of the Divine Kingdom led people to the Underworld King's hell, causing the Underworld King's hell to be plunged into misery and suffering. At that time, Blood Demon King witnessed this scene with his own eyes. So he hates the purple gold divine dragon very much. And now he has merged with the memories of his previous life. He might have resentment toward those who have the purple gold dragon blood. Feather Emperor looked at Madman worriedly. Those who have the purple gold divine dragon, doesn't that include little Qinzi? The white-eyed wolf was bewildered. Yes. Feather Emperor nodded and sighed. In short, after recovering the memories of his previous life, Madman will definitely be affected. It depends on his perseverance and whether he can overcome the negative emotions left behind by his previous life. The problem is so serious. The white-eyed wolf frowned. At this moment, a struggling look appeared in Madman's eyes again, as if he was in great pain. A moment later, seemed to be getting better. His 10,000 feet tall body kept shrinking, returning to the appearance of an ordinary person. The mark between his eyebrows also disappeared. After the mark disappeared, his eyes gradually became clear. When he looked at the white-eyed wolf and Feather Emperor again, he no longer had the feeling of unfamiliarity like before. Seems that he can overcome it. Little Rabbit muttered. It's hard to say. After all, we don't have the purple gold dragon blood. Blood Ancestor shook his head. That's right. Only when facing Feiyong can it be considered a true test for Madman. Feather Emperor nodded in agreement. Of course, they really hoped that even if Madman recovered the memories of his previous life, it wouldn't affect their previous relationship. Otherwise, everyone would feel very uncomfortable in the future. Little Madman, you're not good enough. You have such benefits but you didn't share them with us. The white-eyed wolf walked to Madman's side and said angrily, "This is the inheritance of my previous life. Why should I share it with you?" Madman smiled proudly. At this moment, he was indeed not affected by the memories of his previous life. The inheritance of your previous life is so great? The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips. It's good that you know it's great. You don't have to say it out loud. Madman bared his teeth. Shameless. The white-eyed wolf raised his middle finger in disdain. However, this familiar feeling was really good. It was the original taste. Suddenly, Madman and the white-eyed wolf turned their heads at the same time and looked at the crowd in the distance. Long Qin was standing in front of the crowd. Of course, they all recognized Long Qin. After all, they were already quite familiar with this woman in the ancient world. At the same time, seeing the two of them looking at her, Long Qin couldn't help but frown. At this moment, she was also a little unhappy in her heart. Because like Qin Feiyong, Madman and the white-eyed wolf were also people she hated. She thought that with her current strength, she had already surpassed these bastards. But she didn't expect that the methods displayed by Madman and the white-eyed wolf were stronger than the other. They were really enemies. No matter where she went, they were her biggest enemies. The white-eyed wolf looked at Long Qin mockingly and said, "I heard that you performed well in the battle with the top 10 prodigies of the Divine Kingdom in the land of buried gods?" "It's okay." Long Qin responded faintly and turned to leave. "Why are you in such a hurry to leave? We are old friends for many years. Don't you want to sit down and catch up?" The white-eyed wolf hurriedly said. "Not interested." Long Qin snorted coldly without looking back. "Don't be afraid. We won't bully you." The white-eyed wolf smiled evilly. Long Qin suddenly turned to look at the white-eyed wolf. A terrifying dominator's aura erupted from her body and rushed toward the white-eyed wolf and Madman. What? The two suddenly changed their expressions. This dominator's aura. It seemed to be an intermediate dominator's divine weapon. And it wasn't the aura of the Sky God Sword. They really couldn't afford to offend the son and daughter of the Ice Dragon. Long Qin looked at the two with a smile and said, "Although we have an agreement with the Divine Kingdom that we can't use Dominator's divine weapons, I don't think there is such an agreement between us." "Ha!" The white-eyed wolf laughed dryly. What was going on? Did intermediate Dominator's divine weapons not cost money? The siblings actually had one each. Madman frowned and looked at Long Qin with uncertain eyes. "No matter how strong you siblings are, I want to see you leave the Een Demon Land in 3 days." "Leave the Een Demon Land?" Long Qin was taken aback. The white-eyed wolf also looked at Madman suspiciously. Why did he suddenly make such a request? The Een Demon Land was originally the territory of the Blood Demon tribe. You dragons have occupied it for so long. It's time to give it up. Madman said. "Okay. 3 days later, I will wait for you at the dragon's nest." Long Qin smiled coldly and turned to leave without looking back. He didn't take Madman's words to heart at all. "Little Madman, are you serious? The siblings have intermediate dominators' divine weapons in their hands. No matter how strong your origin of all evil is, I'm afraid you won't be their opponent." The white-eyed wolf frowned. "Then are we going to let them occupy the Een Demon Land like this?" Madman stared at him angrily. Before he recovered his memories of his previous life, he didn't feel anything. But now, seeing the dragons occupying the demon land, he couldn't help but go crazy. This was the territory of his blood demon tribe. Why should he let the dragons occupy it? Chapter 39:18. The white-eyed wolf looked at Madman and suddenly laughed. We're brothers. No matter what you do, I'll support you. You're really something. 3 days later, we'll kill our way to the dragon's nest and let this pair of siblings have a taste of our strength. Even without Ice Dragon as a backer, we won't lose to them. Madman smiled domineeringly. Backer? The white-eyed wolf was stunned and immediately said with disdain, do we still need a backer? We're the best backers. Hearing the conversation between the two, Feather Emperor and the others rolled their eyes. But they were also very happy, because from Madman's current performance, the memories of his previous life didn't affect him as much as they imagined. Feather Emperor landed beside the two and looked at Madman. Let's find a place to talk. Okay. Madman nodded and turned to look at Elder Hor and the others, saying, if there's anything, immediately inform us. Okay. Elder Hua and the others nodded and smiled. Although they didn't know what happened to Madman in their eyes, he was still the same young man. He was still a member of their demon palace. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand and a space-time passage appeared. Several people walked in one after another. Soon, the demon palace regained its peace. The onlookers also gradually dispersed. But the white-eyed wolf and Madman's actions today would inevitably shake the entire Sky Cloud realm, and even the Divine Kingdom. For example, at this moment, Western Continent, Rogue Cultivator Alliance. In a large hall, the Alliance Master and the others gathered together and couldn't help but laugh when they heard the report from the spy. Especially the Hall of the Exalted Master. Madman was his disciple. How could he not be happy that Madman could achieve what he had today? Because he was also proud of himself. After being silent for so long, I finally heard news about them and they became famous in one battle. The Alliance Master shook his head and sighed. Alliance Master, you can't say that. They didn't become famous in one battle because they have long been famous in the Sky Cloud realm. They are the return of the kings. The Hall of the Exalted Master hurriedly corrected him. The Alliance Master was stunned and nodded with a bitter smile. That's true. The Vice Alliance Master glanced at the Hall of Famers and kindly reminded him. I say, old man Shi, you should watch your mouth a little. You're just jealous. The Hall Master of the Hall of the Exalted sneered. Jealous? The Vice Alliance Master was slightly taken aback, and said disdainfully, it seems like you're the only one who has a disciple. Yes, you do indeed have a disciple. However, there is no movement from that disciple of yours at all. We do know him. We know that he is cultivating in seclusion. But others don't know. Maybe people are talking behind his back that he is afraid of the people of the Divine Kingdom, and doesn't dare to show his face. The Hall Master of the Hall of the Exalted laughed. Who dares to talk about this? The Vice Leader flew into a rage. Calm down, calm down. Old Chi was just saying. Do you really think he's serious? The Alliance Master had a helpless expression on his face. These two old men? How childish. Qin Feiyong and the madman were brothers who had gone through thick and thin together. What was there to compare? How are Zhuo Tiansheng and the others? Shen Mang and his wife suddenly asked. They are fine. The vice leader nodded and asked suspiciously. Why are you suddenly asking about them? Are you stupid? Zhuo Tiansheng is Zhuo Xiaoxian's daughter? Lu Zhengyuan is Zhuo Xiaoxian's adopted daughter. Old Man Yu is also on good terms with Zhuo Xiaoxian. We have to take special care of these three people. Shen Mang and his wife said. Is there a need? We are all on the same side. We'll talk about it later. We have always taken good care of them. Why don't you go and take a look at them? They are living more leisurely than us now. I know a little about their lives. The vice leader shook his head. This was true. Zhuo Tiansheng and the other two? They were considered to be in a high position in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. The point was, even if they had great power, they didn't like to care about them. They either cultivated all day long, or gathered together to drink tea and chat. It was very pleasant. I agree with old Yi. They are all on the same side? What's there to take care of them for? If we do it now, if we really go and do something, it will seem too pretentious. The leader thought for a while and nodded. We also want to build a good relationship with the other children. The Shunmeng couple smiled embarrassedly. Yitian, Zhao Xiaojin and the Shunmeng couple's child, the fire dragon? They were all in the black tortoise world now. And back then, they even followed everyone to cultivate beside the little rabbit? It could be said that they had obtained a great fortune. Their relationship has reached this level. There is no need. I only hope that, as long as Yitian doesn't drag them down. The vice leader waved his hand. It is difficult not to drag them down. After all, the gap is obvious. However, we don't need to worry. Although their talents are not as good as Qin Feiyang and other monsters, they are not too bad. Moreover, they have already opened the door of potential. They will definitely achieve something in the future. The leader smiled faintly. That's right. It is too difficult to compare with people like Qin Feiyang and Long Chan. They just need to do their part well. Don't stop working hard. The vice leader and the Hall of Famers nodded one after another. The land of buried gods. The core area. Accompanied by the appearance of a space-time tunnel. A group of people walked out one after another. They were the Madman, the White-Eyed Wolf, Fire Dance, the Feather Emperor, the Blood Ancestor, and the Little Rabbit. The land of buried gods? The Feather Emperor and the others were stunned. They thought that the space-time tunnel opened by the White-Eyed Wolf would lead them to Sky Cloud Island. They didn't expect that it would lead them to the land of buried gods. To the land of buried gods, the White-Eyed Wolf's intention was quite obvious. He wanted to let the Madman and Qin Feiyang meet. The three immediately became worried. They hurriedly looked around, but they didn't find any traces of Qin Feiyang and Yun Ziang. Didn't they say that they would wait for the princess of the divine kingdom in the land of buried gods? Where were they? Why did they come here? The Madman also looked at the White-Eyed Wolf in confusion. He still didn't know that Qin Feiyang was in the land of buried gods. At this moment, the Black Tortoise Realm was floating beside them. The Black Tortoise Realm. Pei Dason had been monitoring the situation outside. When he saw the Madman appear, he immediately shouted, "Young master, look, it's the Madman." The Madman? Qin Feiyang immediately woke up from his seclusion. He raised his head and looked at the scene in the sky. A trace of joy appeared on his face. In the next moment, he appeared outside and looked at the Madman with a smile. "Senior brother, you're finally back. How was it? Did you find anything?" However, the moment the Madman saw Qin Feiyang appear, his eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of killing intent. What's going on? Qin Feiyang was stunned. The hearts of the Feather Emperor and the others were also in their throats. The White-Eyed Wolf and Fire Dance looked at each other and slowly approached the Madman. If the Madman attacked Qin Feiyang, they had to stop him immediately. The Madman was silent as he stared at Qin Feiyang. From his eyes, one could clearly see a trace of resentment and grief. He was grieving for those who died unjustly in the Nether King's hell. But at the same time, there was also a trace of struggle in his eyes. What's going on? Qin Feiyang looked at the White-Eyed Wolf and the others suspiciously. Why did the Madman's eyes look so strange? And in the Madman's heart, he could clearly sense a trace of anger and killing intent. One had to know. With his friendship with the Madman, it was impossible for such a situation to happen. Sigh. The Feather Emperor sighed deeply and walked to Qin Feiyang. He looked at the Madman and said, "We all understand how you feel, but whether it's Qin Feiyang or the princess of the divine kingdom, they're both innocent." "That's right. You hate the divine kingdom. We hate them too. But we have to be reasonable. Every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. Whoever made the mistake should be punished. Moreover, you've been with Qin Feiyang since the ancient world. You should know what kind of person he is without us telling you. You shouldn't transfer your hatred for the purple gold divine dragon to him." The Blood Ancestor also spoke. Since he had to face these things sooner or later, he might as well resolve it today. "What are you talking about?" Looking at the Feather Emperor, the Blood Ancestor, and the Madman, Qin Feiyang was even more puzzled. Actually, he's the reincarnation of the Blood Demon King. Little Rabbit sighed. What? Qin Feiyang's expression stiffened. It's true? Little Rabbit said. And now? He has already fused with the memories and inheritance of his previous life. Memories and inheritance of his previous life? In that case, you've been fusing with the memories and inheritance of your previous life during the months of evil. Qin Feiyang looked at the madman and asked. The madman was silent. The killing intent in his eyes didn't dissipate. The struggle in his eyes became more obvious. During this period, he has indeed been fusing with the memories and inheritance of his previous life. The Feather Emperor nodded. This is a good thing, but why have you all become like this? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. It's indeed a good thing. Because now, he has already grasped the 4 ultimate mysteries. However, there is also a problem. In his previous life, he led the Blood Demon race to the Nether King's Hell to stop the powerhouses of the Divine Kingdom. In that battle, he personally witnessed the suffering of the Nether King's Hell, so before he died, he left a deep resentment in his heart. This resentment is contained in his memories. Now that he has fused with the memories of his previous life, he will naturally be bound by this resentment. The Feather Emperor sighed. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. Shua. Suddenly, a blood shadow appeared. You are? Qin Feiyang, White-Eyed Wolf, and Fire Dance looked at the blood shadow in surprise. I'm the spirit of the Blood Demon Tower. The blood shadow said. The 3 nodded. Actually, when he was fusing with the memories and inheritance of his previous life, I warned him to think twice. But at that time he was very confident. Saying anything will definitely not affect your relationship. However, after he successfully fused with it, I discovered that his personality has begun to change. He is also aware of this, so he has been struggling with his thoughts. However, you can't blame him. It's just that the battle back then was too tragic. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be able to get rid of that shadow. The blood shadow sighed. Qin Feiyang asked, so now I, who have the purple gold dragon blood, have become the target of his hatred? That's right. The blood shadow nodded. Qin Feiyang frowned slightly. His gaze fell on Frenzy again, and he said disappointedly, Senior brother, it seems that the friendship we have formed after going through fire and water together over the years is not that indestructible. The blood shadow, the Feather Emperor, and the others immediately looked at Qin Feiyang. Were they going to fall out with him? Chapter 39:19. The White-Eyed Wolf also hurriedly said, Little Qinzi, don't be angry. You have to give him some time. That's right. If he really doesn't care about your friendship, he wouldn't have been struggling. Blood Shadow also hurriedly explained. Angry? Qin Feiyang paused for a moment and said telepathically, I'm not angry. I'm just deliberately provoking him. Deliberately provoking him? Blood Shadow was taken aback. That's right. The resentment of his previous life is already devouring his mind. If this continues, Senior Brother's consciousness will definitely be devoured by the resentment. Do you know what the consequences of this will be? Senior Brother's consciousness and memories will all disappear and be replaced by the resentment of his previous life. At that time, he will really be a stranger. The most important thing is, when the resentment dominates this body, he will become a ruthless killing machine. So at this time we have to use strong medicine. Qin Feiyang said to himself. Hearing this, the Emperor of Feathers and the others were shocked. They really didn't think of this situation, because they had always thought that even if the lunatic merged with the memories of his previous life, the worst-case scenario would be a split personality. In other words, there would be 2 consciousnesses in one body. But now, after hearing what Qin Feiyang said, this was really possible. Because before the Blood Demon King died, the resentment in his heart was already comparable to the inner demons. Now that this resentment had merged with the lunatic, it would naturally gradually erode the lunatic's mind. Being eroded by such a strong resentment, even the lunatic's confidence would probably be difficult to resist. Once the lunatic's mind was assimilated and devoured by this resentment, the lunatic's memories and consciousness would naturally disappear. In this way, from now on, the person who occupied this body would not be the lunatic or the Blood Demon King, but the resentment of the Blood Demon King. The lunatic again. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, The struggle on his face became even more obvious. At this moment, there was always a voice in his heart. Qin Feiyang was the descendant of the purple gold divine dragon. He was a sinner and deserved to die. This voice was filled with madness and malevolence, constantly tempting the madman. It was as if it contained a magical power that caused his mind to almost collapse. But in the depths of the madman's heart, he had always maintained his friendship with Qin Feiyang. Although this friendship had started to become blurry due to the impact of the resentment, he had been trying hard to tell himself that he could not lose it. Sai, if you really care about our friendship, how can mere resentment affect your consciousness? I'm really disappointed. If it were me today, no matter how strong the resentment is, I would not waver in the slightest, because you are the brother that I, Qin Feiyang, have acknowledged. We will be brothers for life, and no one can change that. Qin Feiyang heaved a long sigh. It's not like that, I didn't. Madman held his head that was about to explode and roared hysterically. Feather Emperor and the others immediately rushed forward worriedly, but Qin Feiyang stopped them. He looked at the madman and continued, Do you still remember the scene when we met in the ancient world? I'm just a nobody who just entered the ancient world. I'm someone who's constantly being targeted by the Dragon Clan. Even I'm worried about my own situation. But you're not afraid at all. You've been taking care of me, protecting me. Even later, when I entered the Divine Kingdom and faced the dragons, you could have completely stayed out of it, but you did not do so. You fought with me, killed enemies side by side, and never abandoned me. From then on, I recognized you as my brother for life. You are also a very brave person. Even when facing the ice dragon and the small beast, you were not afraid. You are a strong person. Facing the death of your adoptive father, facing the unsolved mystery of your origin, you never fell, never gave up. You are also a man with responsibility. Whether it was in the ancient world or now facing the Divine Kingdom, you have never retreated. You have always stood at the forefront, protecting the world. You are so brave, so strong. Can't you defeat a resentment? The setbacks and difficulties we have experienced along the way can't be compared to a resentment. Senior brother, the friendship between us was built through countless life and death tribulations. We are each other's shoulders, each other's reliance. Our friendship can withstand the test of blood and fire. Senior brother, wake up. No matter what the future is, we have to accompany each other and walk down the path together. Qin Feiyang roared. His voice was like thunder shaking all directions. Madman's mind suddenly rumbled. The memories of being attacked by resentment quickly emerged in his mind. Inner world. At this moment, Madman's consciousness stood opposite a blood shadow. This blood shadow was like a cloud of blood mist, filled with a violent aura. It was formed by the resentment of the Blood Demon King. Don't listen to him. What brother, what friendship, that is just a trick to deceive you. What he values is your strength. If you are a trash, he won't care about you at all. The resentment continued to tempt him. Madman shook his head and shouted, Shut up for me. Don't be stubborn. If you don't believe me, you can try. When the benefits are in front of you, what will he do to you? You see, will he still treat you as a brother? But before the resentment finished speaking, murderous intent suddenly erupted from Madman's eyes. He said gloomily, You don't understand him at all. Even if I am a trash, he will not abandon me. As for the benefits, that is a joke. In the Skybell Divine Treasure, as long as I ask, he would rather not have it and immediately give it to me. Let me ask you, how many people in the world can do this? So don't bewitch me anymore because it is already useless. A mere resentment wants to cause trouble. Go and destroy it for me. As Madman's voice fell, a powerful belief surged out and pounced on the resentment. You can't do this. I am the memory of your previous life. The resentment roared. So what if it's my previous life? If you provoke me, I will even kill myself. Madman smiled sinisterly. The power of belief instantly drowned out the resentment of Blood Demon King. No, with a mournful scream, the resentment dissipated. Although his inner world was turbulent outside, Madman was lying on the ground, looking incomparably calm. Feather Emperor, Little Rabbit, Blood Ancestor, Fire Dance, and White-Eyed Wolf all looked at Madman in surprise. What was going on? Why did he suddenly become quiet? However, a faint smile could be seen in Qin Feiyang's eyes. Because he had the inner demons before, he knew how to solve this kind of problem. If nothing unexpected happened, Madman must be in his inner world right now, making an end to the resentment. In other words, his previous words had successfully awakened Madman's memories. Nothing will happen, right? Seeing Madman not moving for a long time, White-Eyed Wolf tilted his head and tentatively reached out his hand, waving it in front of Madman's eyes. What are you doing? Suddenly, the motionless Madman slapped away White-Eyed Wolf's hand. Huh. White-Eyed Wolf looked at Madman in astonishment. Madman slowly raised his head and glared at White-Eyed Wolf, then at Feather Emperor and the others. Finally, his gaze fell on Qin Feiyang. This gaze, Feather Emperor and the others sized up Madman. The current Madman's gaze no longer had that strange feeling from before. It was no different from the previous Madman. Let me formally welcome you back. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Who needs your welcome? Also, I have no interest in being your brother for life. Madman immediately rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyang smiled. This was the lunatic that he was familiar with. Where's the resentment? Blood Demon Tower's artifact spirit asked. I destroyed it. Madman said casually. The artifact spirit was stunned. Feather Emperor and the others also looked at each other. Not only did they succeed in awakening Madman, but they also destroyed the resentment. This was equivalent to completely eliminating this hidden danger. This was truly something worth celebrating. White-Eyed Wolf asked, Then, do you still have the memories of Blood Demon King? Aren't you asking nonsense? All I did was erase that resentment. I didn't erase my memories. Madman rolled his eyes. In other words, the memories are still there? Then will you have a split personality in the future? White-Eyed Wolf was curious. You want me to have a split personality, right? Madman stared at him fiercely and shook his head. What's left now is just a simple memory. It won't have any effect. That's good. White-Eyed Wolf bared his teeth. Now that you mention it, the resentment left behind by the previous life is truly terrifying. Back then, when I was still fusing with the memories and inheritance, this resentment had already begun to devour my consciousness. But I had no choice. I wanted the inheritance left behind by my previous life too much, so I let it devour it. I wanted to wait until the fusion was complete before I slowly settled the score with it. But I didn't expect that by the time the fusion was complete, it had already devoured more than half of my consciousness. If I hadn't been steadfast in my heart, I'm afraid I would have already become a puppet. Madman shook his head. Hearing this, Feather Emperor and the others couldn't help but feel a lingering fear in their hearts. Fortunately, White-Eyed Wolf directly brought Madman to Qin Feiyang. Fortunately, Qin Feiyang saw through it and immediately awakened Madman. Otherwise, Madman's consciousness would definitely be gone after a period of time. At that time, even if a deity descended to the mortal world, it would be useless. Let's go to the Black Tortoise world and talk slowly. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and a group of people immediately appeared in the tea garden. Qin Feiyang brewed tea while looking at White-Eyed Wolf and Fire Dance, and asked suspiciously, When did the two of you run out? I actually didn't know. Didn't we hear that little Madman had returned? So we went to the demonic palace to take a look. You didn't know because we went directly to the Fire Lotus. But speaking of which, little Madman, what's the situation with the source of all evil? White-Eyed Wolf looked at Madman suspiciously. The source of all evil? Qin Feiyang was stunned. You didn't see it with your own eyes. The current Madman's strength can be called monstrous. After transforming, he directly suppressed the ultimate profundity of an ultimate law. White-Eyed Wolf said excitedly, What? Suppressed the ultimate profundity of an ultimate law. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.